Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. It has been a while. I'm your host, Zoph, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Late Riser and Pras. We haven't seen you, especially in a while, LR. How you been?
Good, dusting off the cobwebs and getting back into FPL mode, and it's going from gear one to gear five straight off the bat based on the events of the weekend. So there we. I was chilling. I was genuinely chilling until the 60th, 65th minute of yesterday, until a certain Mr. Erling Haaland decided to get injured, and then you're like, okay, you got to wake up from your slumber now because things aren't like how you thought they would be. How about you? How you guys been? Pras is in India, I think, in Delhi at home. How has it been coming back home, man?
Good man. It's still jet lagged, but I was just gonna say, I was like you. I was like, I'm not playing a chip. I'm fine. Like this is okay. Even if Wood is out, it's fine. But then the Haaland thing, and it's now. I think this season, it's just one of those things. Whenever I travel, whenever I was in Dubai the last time I had to play the assistant manager chip. It's like whenever I go, something happens, and then within 2 days I have to like scramble and do the chip, which is not ideal, but it's still nice. Nice to be with family and nice to be back home. Zoff,
Zoff?
what have you been up to?
Lot of gaming, playing the new Assassin's Creed game, and of course, the IPL has been on. That's helped to manage the international breaks somewhat. And let's not really talk much about the IPL. I'm sure we have a lot more to cover, and people don't really want to hear about how poorly the
Chennai is
Chennai
not
team
doing
is
well.
doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's jump right in, guys.
Yeah.
But have you been
What?
pressing a few buttons just at the top? I
Yes,
thought I'd
I
ask.
think
Yes.
out of the three of us, like I'm sure the chat can guess which one of us has activated. I've activated my wild card. These two gentlemen are on the brink, and we'll see how they feel by the end of the pod today.
In fact, before you go to the next steps, I know this is going to be a big one because we're going to cover all aspects. And don't worry, we're not just going to talk about people on wildcard. We're going to talk about if you should be wildcarding or not, if you have other chips. So we will try to be as comprehensive as possible. So we'd love it if you show us some support, like the stream so that more people see it. We'll only have something like 24 hours, a little bit more than 24 hours to get this out, and subscribe to the channel. We're coming to the end of the season. And so that would be very, very much appreciated.
And a reminder to everyone that the clocks have now changed in the UK. So for everyone in Asia, the deadline's going to be an hour earlier tomorrow. Don't get caught out. Sponsor plug, guys.
As always, all the data that you see, and my God, there is so much data on today's podcast, is from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. Wildcard time is the best time to become a member. So if you aren't a member, click on the link in the description below.
And as you guys know, NordVPN has been a long-term partner of the FPL Wire. If you're bored of the streaming libraries in your country, with NordVPN, you can access content outside your region, get access to a wider library on your favorite streaming services, and if you're traveling outside your country, you can access your home library content. Every purchase of the 2-year NordVPN plan using the link nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire receive an additional 4 bonus months on top. TV shows, guys, what have you been watching?
So yesterday I started this new Seth Rogen show called The Studio, and the hype was so much, literally so much from the show. And when it gets so hype, right, you're bound to be disappointed, and that's what happened. Like it was nice, it was good fun, but like the reviews and the reports coming out are it's just the perfect show. You can't miss it. I'm not feeling it yet. Maybe it grows on me later.
Russ?
Apple have thrown a lot of money on their both the shows and the marketing of the shows. So
Yeah.
it shows. I just finished Severance, White Lotus, just been on like recurring mode, nothing new. And then with the travel also, nothing much. Just IPL now, some Premier League football.
Finally, football's back. I watched 1,000 Blows. It has the same lead actor from Adolescence, I think Stephen Graham. I think that's his name.
Yeah.
That's pretty decent. I think a lot of the creators
Have you
had
seen?
What?
Which one is it? What's the name?
1,000 Blows.
Okay.
Hello?
Check it out.
They've done
I've
a
watched
one take movie called The Boiling Point. Also, have you guys seen that?
I think so.
That's a show. It's a series, no? In the
It's
kitchen. Is
it's
it a
a
movie?
1.5 hour movie. Yes, yes,
Ah,
yes,
think I
yes.
saw it
I think
back
I
in the day.
started it with my wife. Yeah.
It's
I didn't know it was
basically
one
the
take.
Bear meets adolescence in terms of one take. And Bear also, if in season one, there's a one take episode where they show the we call chaos and intensity
Mm.
in the kitchen in one episode. Similar sort of situation.
I
Yeah.
think we started it. It was like a health inspector in the beginning, no?
Yes.
That is the
Yes.
yeah, I think we started it. Yeah.
Moving on, Nod also has an efficient anti-malware and anti-spyware protection tool. It highlights any attack and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Sign up using the link in the description below. Cool, boys. Let's get started. First up, Russ, let's talk about what we have learned from the weekend that has just gone.
I mean, the weekend was a little bit of a swing because first we had our nice Fulham versus Crystal Palace, the one where we always support Palace, and that was a good result because they are the team that play Arsenal, and Arsenal are a team we like. So them having a potential double is always nice because you can load up on some nice Crystal Palace players who turn into prime Barcelona at the back end of the season. You can get Arsenal. So that was a good result, I thought. Had Fulham won, it would have been a little bit more boring and their fixture might not even have moved. So that helped. And then you saw basically Brighton not winning. And with Nottingham Forest, we will come to the reasons why, but that fixture is very unlikely to move. So Nottingham Forest winning didn't help with chaos, right? So that's what I'm basically giving the analysis in terms of FPL chaos. And so that was not great. And then obviously Aston Villa were expected to win, so that was an easy one. And then the Bournemouth game, when Bournemouth took the lead and Haaland missed the pen, I was like, okay, now we're going to get max chaos scenario, because if Bournemouth had won, then Man United and Bournemouth could have also potentially doubled. Didn't happen. And we ended up with the scenario where Man City won. Now, Man City were going to blank in 34 and double another time anyway because they play Aston Villa. We talked about it in the past. So it didn't add to the chaos. But yeah, Haaland injury added to the chaos. Definitely added to the chaos. So that was it. And then now we have the draw. And there was another news, the West Ham news. But I don't know, before, do you guys want to comment on the FA Cups themselves?
Not really much to take from it. I thought City looked all right, much better. I think when Vamouche came on, it just adds so much to the team. Apart from that, I didn't really watch much of the other matches. Villa played a pretty second string team. They were actually going to bring on Watkins just before the first goal. Then they elected to leave him on the bench completely. Rashford played center forward, took a penalty. Obviously, neither Asensio or Watkins were on the pitch, but I didn't watch any of the Brighton Forest game at all. LR, did you watch any football this
In
weekend?
terms of X chaos though, like one thing that happened is it's basically as less chaos as possible now. And I was actually really hoping that Bournemouth win the tie against City, because it would be nice to see Forest, Palace, Villa, and Bournemouth, compete for a cup. That would be nice, and I would get a chance to pick a couple of United players on the Wildcard. But that isn't going to happen.
Triple up,
But
man. Triple up.
yeah, triple up. Yeah, and there's some good picks. There's some good picks in United, so I was a little bit sad about that. But that's that. You have to play the cards you're dealt.
Now let's talk about where we're expecting these doubles to go, Pras.
So first, do you have that West Ham quote?
Yes.
So this happened basically, which is basic. It happened in the middle of the international break. Nobody picked it up. Then yesterday night, Ben Crellin was doing the green arrow, and somebody put it up on the comments. And basically, what this says is on the West Ham website, they said, guys, you know what? If Nottingham Forest were to reach the final of the FA Cup, then our game that is supposed to happen in Game Week 37 will move provisionally to Game Week 36. Now, there is a lot of if, buts, and provisionals and maybes and probablys here. But what this basically tells you is that there is now a much higher likelihood that the clubs were already told that, guys, if your opponent makes the final, that the game moves to Game Week 36. So be prepared for that. The game will happen 3-4 days earlier. Now, that is very important for two reasons. Now, if you go to Johnny's slide, what this means is basically that the final, which is supposed to happen in Game Week 37, if those games move to 36, which is a completely free midweek, the blanks that happen from Game Week 34, which is caused by the semi-finals of the FA Cup, pretty much 33 is the only place they will go. Either they stay in 34 or they move to 33, because 33 is again a completely free midweek. So this is why there's a little bit more confidence than before on two things. The thing number one is that the fixtures that have moved, the Arsenal Crystal Palace game and Man City Aston Villa game, should quite likely move to Game Week 33. And the other thing that we have learned is that from Game Week 37, just like you can see here, the very last row, West Ham versus Nottingham Forest, that could move to Game Week 36. Now, why are these percentages not 100? Because these are the odds of them actually making it to the final of the FA Cup, right? So it is at the moment, it is likely that Aston Villa make it, or Man City should be up there as well. But we don't know how the arrangements work. So basically, there is some scenarios there. But what is very important is look at Game Week 33 column. Gameweek 33 column is basically the doubles that people are expecting. And now we're up to 95%. Why are we up to 95% sure that these games are moving to Gameweek 33? We've been wrong before. The point is that the two games that are being moved are the games that involve European teams. So Crystal Palace are playing Arsenal. Arsenal could very well have a game in Game Week 34 because they could still be in the Champions League. So their game is very, very likely to move to Game Week 33. Similarly, Man City, Aston Villa are still in the Champions League. So it doesn't matter if they beat Real Madrid or if they beat PSG or not, because by the time they're scheduling these games, they cannot take a chance that they will lose. So it's very likely that these games move to Game Week 33. Therefore, we now sit here after the FA Cup thinking that there's a very high chance that Aston Villa, Man City, Arsenal, and Crystal Palace will be the doubles, and those will be the corresponding blanks in Game Week 34. The only other one is Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest obviously are also in the FA Cup semi-final, but why can't their game move? The problem is their game is on Monday, on Game Week 33. So you could have a Monday, Thursday, Sunday. So they could have a schedule like that, but they're not going to agree. Like they will not like it. They're not in Europe. They would just very well say we'll play after the FA Cup semi-final. Man, we're not going to bother later. Or they could move in on any other game in Game Week 35 or 36. So that's where we are in terms of the landscape.
So in terms of scheduling, Pras, we were advocating earlier waiting till game week 31 to wildcard instead of 30. Has the goalpost shifted there somewhat?
No, I think if you can still wait, you should wait, because until things are announced, nothing is confirmed. You want to play your bench boost ideally when those numbers are 100%, not when those are 90%, because that means nobody is certain that that will go there. So ultimately, you're taking a little bit of a risk. Now, they could announce it later today. They could announce it tomorrow before the deadline. But if they're not, then everybody who's playing their wildcard is taking a little bit of a risk. Now, that risk could be 5%, 8% for these numbers in Game Week 33. It could be more. Who knows? Right. So I think the first thing is, do you need to wildcard? And that should be the starting point. And there are various factors to that. Dango, could he play? Would Haaland be fit? Would Palmer be fit? Would Chris Wood be okay? And if you're stuck with all of them, then maybe you have to play it. And then that's basically the dilemma people have.
It is very team specific indeed, LR, and we were discussing this earlier in the chat. What do you think people now assessing their team? What are the flags, literal flags, and others that they should look for to decide whether they should wildcard this week or next? Because the gain in information now is there, but it seems a bit marginal than it was earlier.
It's such a tough call. It's such a tough call because, the game that we play is such a dynamic game. And especially when you're coming up back to football after a 2-week break like we've seen, it's a lot of oddities, etc., or new injury information that you'll just randomly get when the lineups are out, right? So that's one thing I don't like is immediately playing the wildcard straight after an international break, because there's a little bit of unknown and lack of form to judge. It's a little bit of a blank slate. So if you've got 11 players and you've got 3 players or 4 players from Bournemouth, City, and Palace, because they play the 3 promoted teams, which are the teams to target, and you've got a Mo Salah in place, I would say hold off. Don't play the wild card. But if you're in a situation where you've got a Haaland size problem to deal with, a Wood size problem to deal with, a couple more injuries, etc., and have no Palace, no City, and we talk about now there being 9 game weeks in the season. So every game week is more than 10% of the season left, and you have to attack every season. And 3 of the teams that are prominently going to feature on wildcard drafts, Newcastle, Palace, and City, 2 of them play promoted opposition, and that sort of enables going for the wildcard right now. So it depends on how much you value information, how much you value form. And if your team is in a good place, if your team isn't in a good place, I think go for it, because I think we have substantial enough information. And the other thing is, who you're going to go with. You're going to go with City players, Aston Villa players on your wildcard. You're going to go with Palace players on a wildcard, and you're going to go with Newcastle players. The confirmed doubles are there for 2 of these teams. And City and Villa are very, very likely going to have a double anyway. Arsenal are very, very, very likely going to have a double anyway. If there is a curveball, it's not going to be 33 somewhere else. Low odds, but you're going to pick people that are going to double anyway. So the downside of not wildcarding isn't that substantial.
Agree. And the similar thing, exactly what you said, and Raptor mentioned in his video as well. The 5 teams you're going to target, they have decent entry points. Maybe not so Villa this week. And we'll talk about Villa's scheduling. It gets a bit tricky with the PSG game. Maybe for them, you want to wait a little bit later. But Arsenal, they have Fulham. We just got a quote from Arteta today. Saka raring to go, etc., etc. How much we want to believe him, that's a different story. But it does indicate now Saka is ready to return to the starting 11, and Fulham at home is a decent fixture as well.
Yeah.
So again, the entry points are good for all these 5 teams which you want to load up on. And I don't think it's going to be too different, the team with the way it sets up in 31 versus 30.
No, one big thing that is in my equation is how precious free transfers are. Like spending a free transfer just to do Haaland to, I have already on Mamush, so just to Haaland to Mateta instead of wildcarding feels like such a waste. Because if I wildcard now, it gives me an extra transfer to deal with Game Week 33 or Game Week 35 after we come after the free hit, should be free hit in Game Week 34. And these things also matter. Like I feel like there's one notion where you're thinking that you're getting a lot more information. And so because the information, Saka, Palmer, important players that are going to be crucial in the latter half of the season, you're going to get information from them this midweek. And you feel like you're going to be one step ahead because you have that information. But losing out on extra transfer in 33 and in 35, therefore, is going to feel like being one step backwards. Like I think you need those transfers to deal with switching some Newcastle players to some Villa players, etc., from 32 to 33, all of that as well.
Absolutely great point. Like there'll be 3 pressure points going forward in terms of transfers. One is basically taking out your Newcastle players from 32, especially if you're free hitting in 34, because you don't need them at home to Ipswich. You'll be free hitting, and after that, their fixtures are terrible. There'll be the second pressure point after your free hit when you're trying to get to new teams, basically the new doublers in 36, because after 34 we will know who are the doublers in 36 and blankers in 37. Until 34 we won't know, which is why wildcard 34 has actually dropped massively in terms of its appeal, because you want to be wildcarding after knowing the doubles and blanks. And so the next pressure point will be game week 35, and then of course game week 37. Like there's a question in the chat, how the hell will we navigate game week 37? We'll have to use free transfers. You won't have 2 free hits. So, and leaving it for 37 feels a little bit too much. Like you're taking a gamble. At least now you know with good certainty what 34 looks like blank. 37 blank, look, if Man City lose, you could say, fine, it's cool, man. 37 is not too bad.
And you likely also have like 5 to 6 doublers in 36 already, because you're buying teams already that are blanking, that are in the FA Cup. You're
Correct.
setting up for them as well.
Correct. And unless Nottingham Forest win, a lot of wildcards now will have Villa, Man City, and Crystal Palace, who are the 3 out of the 4 teams in the semi-final. So it's very likely that they are the ones that make it. Yes, then you will need to use your bench or your transfers to get them out if when they blank in 37.
Just to illustrate the point we were making about entry points, look at the numbers here for some of those teams. Man City are projected to score 3 goals. Palace are 1.85, which I think is a bit on the lower side. I would probably give them something like 2.2 against Southampton. Arsenal goals-wise is not that high, but again, clean sheet odds, look at 50%. Going to double up on the Arsenal guys, it's good. Newcastle 2.1 is also good over here. Bournemouth, if you want to retain the likes of a Clivert, maybe even buy a Clivert if you're stuck with a Dango. Good entry point this week as well. So I think it makes sense, man. And I think I would, looking at most teams I see right now, everyone has at least 1 or 2 injuries to deal with. Unless you have no injuries and you're able to roll a transfer, I really think you should consider using the wildcard.
The bastards who avoided Haaland.
And Captain
basically.
Bruno.
And Captain Bruno in 29. I want to find them. I want to, basically ask them to pick the lottery numbers, because that is huge jam. Like everyone was captaining Haaland this week and basically avoiding the wildcard. At least that was my plan. Like I had Salah, I had Haaland, I had Palmer. Palmer's playing Spurs. I have Munoz. And basically this was the week where you catch up to those guys who captained Bruno last week. But now Haaland's injured. Now you're actually behind in a way, because now you'll have to play your wild card. Now, of course, you could get positive variance on game week 30 on your wild card and make up. But those guys specifically, you know who you are. I mean, that is some huge jam.
Yep. On
I
Haaland,
love that came out so unfiltered from Pras, right? Because Pras and Bruno is a complicated relationship, right? Like, because I remember back in Game Week 22 or 23 when we were making those transfers, Pras got in Bruno because he looked at 29 and he was like, I have Bruno in place. So that's why it hurts even more, because Pras pivoted midway through the 22-29 period and then got rid of Bruno as well. So I can understand where the pain's coming from.
So on Haaland, we should mention we're recording this on the 31st of March in the evening. We don't have any clarity about the extent of his injury, but I don't think he will be risked at least midweek against Leicester. A lot of times players are fine, even though they walk off with a protective boot, but there's no need to risk him against the struggling Foxes. If anything, you keep him for the derby, the weekend after.
we'll get a press conference tomorrow anyway, right? So we're okay on information there. Because like I have realized since the last year, when it comes to modern science and these protected boots, I wouldn't read too much into these protected boots. We've seen it with Madison, we've seen it with Bruno Fernandes. They've come back quicker than we've expected. So I'll wait on information there.
But what information? The problem is now you got information for Chris Wood. Nuno just had his press conference. What did he say?
He's
Yeah,
getting
every
better,
day he's
waiting.
getting better. We will see. You are basically taking on. I'm not saying you, like anybody who's hoping to hold. You're basically saying, okay, I'm gonna pray that Chris Wood makes a recovery. Haaland makes a recovery and is okay. Palmer, for whom we will not even get a press conference, I'll just go by the fact that he's in training, so he should be okay. And I'm gonna take on Mateta, Isak, and Marmoush. Basically, if Marmoush starts Leicester at home on pens, up top striker, it's just very difficult to take that on. So there is a lot of FOMO. Like, let's not deny it. Like, I was completely not ready to do it. Then I see people do it, and I look at wildcard drafts, and I'm like, am I ready to take on with Chris Wood, João Pedro, and whoever else I had? Like, take on Mamouche, Isak, and Mateta? No, man. Like, I'm not ready to do that. Like, that could be 20 points lost. So there is a little bit of FOMO there.
Yeah, but I just think it's our duty and responsibility to be play devil's advocate here. So I want to ask
100%.
you guys, what are the reasons to not wildcard in 30?
I'm struggling to think of any. I guess information is
Nidhe,
against your
come
team is
on.
stable.
I think
Pardon?
if you hit the big guys, if you're hitting the big guys, if you have Salah, so a lot of people sold Salah in 29 to get to Haaland, and now they're having to get Salah back. So if you don't have Salah, and you'll have to make a double transfer, take a hit to get Salah, because now Salah will be mass captain. He'll be the top captain this week. So I think if you don't have Salah, you fit that category. If you have Chris Wood and Haaland and another problem. So in my case, I had Dango, I had Chris Wood and Haaland, and you have to put out two of those guys or use up free transfers or take a hit. I think it's hard to avoid. But if it's only one problem, not the end of the world. Maybe they can even be benched. You could look at it.
Yeah, I think a good example of that will be my team because I'm right on the edge in terms of not having too many problems, etc. Yeah, this is my team for people that can see. I've got Pickford, Gabriel, Munoz, Hill, Salah, Palmer, Clivert, Boomer, Haaland, Marmoush, and Vissa. I've got one free transfer. The easy move to do is to do Haaland to Mateta. So I'm
Isak.
covering I prefer Mateta this week against Southampton, for example. Let's say I make that move. Who are the guys that I have that I won't have on wildcard? Clivert, Boomo, and Vissa in all likelihood, and Guardiola in place of
And a
Hill
goalkeeper.
and a better goalkeeper. So this is the
That's
to and
5
fro.
better players.
That's 5 better players.
And a free
And
transfer
this
you're
is-
postponing for later.
That free transfer somehow hurts me more than the 5 better players because I feel like this team is fair enough to play. I don't think Clivert is a worst player by the way.
Clivert is,
He's
I
a
agree
good
with
player.
that.
I might actually keep
Clivert
him
is on a
and
lot
then
of drafts.
sell him in 32. Yeah.
Exactly. And I also think just from a matchup point of view also, I don't think Newcastle are the best team defensively. And this Newcastle-Brentford game is exactly the kind of game that sees like a 2-2 or goals on either side of the pitch also. So I wouldn't like in any world, whatever the fixtures, Boomo and Vissa are not bad assets. So I'm actually thinking, is it worth holding on the information? What's hurting me is Hill and Pickford. I feel like they're not good assets this week. And it's Hill / Mikolenko, and I don't know who will play. Earlier was planning to do Mikolenko to Kirkes and let Haaland play, and my team was in shape for 30. That's why I was. But this Haaland injury is sort of curveball, and I'm closer to having an acceptable team in 30 compared to you guys. But still, it's 4 players or 5 players that we're talking about, which is an entry point. So, it helps in the conversation that we're doing in terms of, would you pull the trigger on this?
How different would your team look in 31?
That's the thing, right? The thing with how different the team would look in 31 comes down to some big decisions. Like, let's say you're edgy on Trippier, and Trippier puts in a masterclass and gets 2 assists and bonus points, and now Newcastle have shifted to playing in a way where he's the guy, he's the pick. That's information that you didn't have until now, and you would have pushed. Or like, for example, Saka plays 30 minutes and looks leggy. And it looks like it's going to be a while, and you're making plans for Saka, but it looks like it's going to be a while, and Arteta is going to prioritize Saka. Like, there are certain bits and pieces of information where Eze got a confident goal in the cup game. Everybody's preferring Sar at the moment, but he's looking like a change player and everything is going through him. And now you're picking like these decisions where you maybe are 40-60 between one decision and you watch the games over the weekend. Watching 10 games is a lot of information generally in football point of view. That might influence a couple of decisions in the midweek. Like that's I just wanted to play devil's advocate with this entire equation.
There were 4 games this weekend and we got mass chaos. Like Haaland got injured. So there is also the thing of, waiting a week and being closer to your bench boost basically gives you your power. Like it's an unknown. You don't know what your advantage is until actually the games have played out. And also the fixtures. We are still at 95%. I mean, if the Arsenal Crystal Palace fixture stays in game week 34 for whatever reason, man, like I don't know, or Nottingham Forest actually ends up getting a double, your team will look very different if Nottingham Forest are doubling in 33. So there are reasons if you want to delay. It's an unknown, but it's like I think LR is a good example to look at his team where it is really dependent on what you're feeling at the moment. In fact, that Newcastle Brentford game, how you see that game is pretty much how, or if you see the Hill start, that's pretty much it. That's all it is.
Yeah. Like if and like one other thing, I just want to say like there are people pickers of 29 who have Clivert, Semenyo, and Kokes in place, for example. Like that would be a really tough team to wildcard bust because you're getting 3 Bournemouth players at home to switch again as a differential, and I think that's a very strong differential to have because not many wildcarders are going to go triple Bournemouth. So these equations might come into play. That's all.
Yep. Newcastle Brentford. You should mention that Newcastle had the bus parade and they've been on the piss this weekend. So
yeah,
that could
that's
be
the
a fixture that Bournemouth Brentford benefit. So
it's a home game. It will be a party.
that's another thing.
And when it comes to motivation, right? The good thing is team 3 to team 9 in the Premier League highly motivated. So whether it's Palace, Brentford, Newcastle, all these guys just pushing for different places in Europe, they all have motivation. It's so congested, that part of the table. So even Newcastle United, likes of Man City, very, very highly motivated to get 3 points in every game. It's very, very tight. And there's a lot of money at stake.
Yep.
And all of this money matters even more in the area of profit and sustainability. Like these rules mean that having extra budget through some European competitions means a lot for these teams.
Let's discuss some chip strategy, guys. Now, even for those guys who are wildcarding and in general, the impact of FA Cup results on our chip strategy in such in terms of bench boost, triple captaincy, etc. Pras, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it looks like Wildcard 30-31 will be popular. Now, people who have managed to get through 29, either because they couldn't give a toss about 29 and this just worked through and their team looks good now, or they free hit it in 29. I think for them, a later wildcard makes more sense. So I think given the news of game week 36, 37 being doubles and blanks, or likely to be doubles and blanks, a later wildcard has some appeal now. So if you could delay until game week 35, that makes sense. But for others, mere mortals who don't have good teams in 30, who basically have to now play the wildcard, 30-31 is going to be popular. I think for bench boost, you could think about game week 32. You could think about game week 33. Why? Because the double link teams aren't enough. Actually, your game week, your bench boost, actually the 4 players that will be on the bench is pretty much, apart from keeper maybe, will be single game week players. So you can basically anchor your team towards a bench boost game week 32, or you can anchor towards a bench boost game week 33. And then I think the free hit game week the most popular free hit game week would be game week 34, or people could think about free hitting in either 36 or 37. So I think the meta strategy or the meta popular strategy is going to be wildcard 30, bench boost 32 or 33, and free hit 34. That's basically going to be for the people who have it left. For the people who have a triple captaincy left in addition, it will be whichever week you don't triple captain. So if you are bench boosting in 32, you could triple captain in 33. Or if you're bench boosting in 33, you could triple captain in 32. Or you could hope
36.
to hold. Yeah, but the problem with 36 is you don't know who will make the semi-final. Like they are all close enough-ish that you don't know if you want to risk it on Chris Wood, right? I mean, so you will, in 32 and 33 have good enough. Like Isak is good enough. 2 home games, very nice. In 33, you could have Haaland back. And if Haaland's not back, Mamouche is good enough. Or you could have Saka, who's fit. And Saka's 2 games are great. So it's basically what's in front of you. You can plan for it a little better than going for the unknown in 36 and 37. That's at least the right in front of us type of chip strategy. There's people with assistant manager. We'll talk about them as well. But you guys, any other thoughts?
I want to
Just
talk.
Thinking out loud right now. If we wildcard 30, the core logic is that you would like to bench boost immediately the week after wildcard because you're most optimal in terms of information, etc. And the second piece of information that we have is we are in whatever game week going to play 4 single game weekers, except for the keeper maybe, on the bench. Is there a chance to? I was just looking at game week 31 fixtures. Why is there a chance to not bench boost in 31 immediately after the 30 wildcard? Because I was just looking at fixtures. Leicester play Newcastle, so you'll have 3 Newcastle against Leicester. You don't mind that. Palace play Brighton at home. You don't mind that. Arsenal play Everton. So if you're going double or triple Arsenal, you don't mind that. And Aston Villa play Forest at home. So there are with when do they play Europe? They play Europe immediately. So that's a little bit of rotation. The thing is, then you don't have to worry about bench players in 32 and 33. You can target, like, I don't know, Ipswich versus Wolves, for example, as a game that you want to target with cheap assets that have playable bench boost players right now, and just bench boost in 31 or even find a week in 35, 36, just thinking out loud.
So the thing
So-
with that is, sorry, Pras, a lot of the guys who are getting for the double in 33, they have better fixtures in 32 than they do in 31. For example, you take Villa, they have Southampton that week. Works better that way. Let's say like even your Newcastle guys in 32, they'll have the double, etc., things like that. That's what I've noticed in my planning. Whoever generally has a good fixture in 33 has a decent fixture in 32 as well. Now, the problem if you bench boost in 33 rather than 32 is, let's say you're going to load up on your Newcastle guys, right? They have Villa away in 33. You're either going to have to commit to transfers out or accept that those guys are not going to have the best fixture possible. Okay, you can move Isak to Watkins, but let's say we go with like a Murphy or a Burn. Not even going to have that much money to move them around. And who are you going to move them around to? Another single game week player? Just doesn't seem like a great use of transfers when you know you will need those transfers to navigate the schedule that's coming later on. That's why in general, when we talk about drafts, I'm currently leaning towards bench boost 32 rather than 33, because then I can forget about those Newcastle guys in 33.
Yeah, and
The
basically
only-
a point to make, sorry, Allah, just to say on your 31 point, I think it's also, there's another point that the more double game weekers you have in your team, even though they're not on your bench, you get a little bit of insurance that you won't need a bench. You see what I mean? Like somebody just misses a game. You know, like if you have Rodgers, he just doesn't play because they played midweek and then they play on the weekend. So 31 is that weekend where there will be midweek game in 30 and then a game in 31. It could happen in 32 as well, but the more doublers you have, the less chance of that happening. So basically, that's a little bit of a. And then the point that Zoph made, that these teams have good fixtures. Like Villa in 33 have a double, not great, but 32 is also good. So Newcastle, this quirkiness is basically also annoying me a lot. Like you could bench boost with one Newcastle maybe, but not two defenders, like two Newcastle defenders or Murphy. You could, but it's not ideal.
I want to add some context to that. And I think the decision making should be done maybe closer to 33. If at all you want to shift your Newcastle players to Villa players, because, and the good point that you guys mentioned about 31 also, because the weekend games are before big Champions League games for Villa and Arsenal. Will we be surprised to see a random benching? No. So that rules 31 out. Good point, well made with you, not considering game week 31 bench boost anymore. But the thing that worries me, Zoph, is let's say you're looking at bench boosting 32 and you're looking at Villa players. Like you're looking at Konsa plus Rodgers, for example. The problem is it's sandwiched between the two PSG games.
He might not play. Exactly.
That's the biggest
big
issue.
And the good thing for Newcastle players is that they're going to play Aston Villa, who traditionally are poor after midweek in Europe because they don't have a very deep squad.
They'll be playing them after, yeah, you're right.
After the PSG game. So the fixture, while it looks bad on paper, might not be as bad as we might perceive it to be because of the games that Aston Villa have. They have played 2 extra games in the last 10 days.
I get the point you're making, but for example, what I try to do the Villa situation is, for example, I put Rashford in over Rodgers. I'm hoping now Rashford plays potentially centre forward against Southampton like he did in the FA Cup with Watkins out. And then I'm planning to buy Watkins only after in 33 and 32, for example. And Konsa is possibly the most likely to start of the Villa guys. It very rarely gets rotated. Could get benched, of
unless
course.
he's injured. He gets injured a lot as well, unfortunately.
Yes, Pras, you know that quite well.
Yeah.
So, but things like that, you can't navigate that around. Maybe you, like, let's say you get a Neco Williams who has Everton at home that week and decide I'll even skip Konsa. Neco is going to be on your bench 33 anyway. And that's what in my setup you see. I'm actually trying to bench Konsa in 33. And not bench boost him. I keep him for the double potentially if they have one later on in 36. You can work around a little bit in Villa like that. For example, Isak to Watkins works out perfectly for 33.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
Haaland also needs to come in, man. Isak to Haaland is what people should be planning.
If Haaland is fit, you can do that as well.
33 is 3 weeks away. Like what I'm saying, of course, if he's not fit, he's not fit. But what I'm saying is we can't assume we are getting Watkins through that. Like there's players.
No,
This is another
absolutely.
point of waiting, where we are now going into a wildcard without Saka, who could possibly be the best captain for Game Week 33, without Haaland, who could possibly be the best captain for Game Week 33, and basically going into it with a Mamouche, who could become a rotation risk if Haaland is fit, and an Isak who doesn't have good fixtures after Game Week 32. So I mean they're all fine, but it's not ideal. So these are the constraints people have to work with.
And as a Mamush owner for the last 5 weeks, I would want to point out a couple of things. A, I think his expected minutes with Haaland are higher than people perceive it to be. And B, people think that he's a better asset without Haaland because nailed on forward. That is not the truth. He's a better asset with Haaland. He's a lot less effective playing solo striker in that Man City team. So just a couple of things that I wanted to add. Because I've had games with him playing solo striker and he didn't do much. But with Haaland, he's got all his points.
But I think the point to note is, I mean, we just covered Aston Villa a little bit. So I just want to emphasize the point that Zoph made. Aston Villa are going to be an important team, not just because of bench boost, because of the possibility of them reaching the final of the FA Cup by beating Crystal Palace. And therefore, let's say if you have 2 Villa and 3 Crystal Palace, you've almost guaranteed that you're going to have 2 doublers in 36 also, even now. Because whichever team wins, that team will double. Now, of course, you will also have more blankers in 37, but that's the point, right? That's why we play. We want to have more doublers in 36, and then we deal with those with transfers later. So by having Villa is a very important team from that point of view, and also the most difficult team, because apart from maybe the defenders, which are rubbish, there is no clear pick that you know will start every game. Even Watkins, you can't be sure starts in Southampton. So this is where it's a little bit, you could be very boring. Like you'll see my draft and you could go just, Konsa and Martinez or something. But that's not as great because their fixtures in the double aren't so great. So Villa is an interesting team.
This is a very good thing, just for the listeners also. We haven't spoken at all, Pras, Zoph and I, until right now. So this is sort of us just brainstorming. So there's a lot of jumping onto each other's ideas, etc., which is quite cool. I think everybody enjoyed. So the point that comes to my head when you're talking about this and Villa being important in Game Week 37, it actually makes me think that going with just one Villa player into your wildcard team in 30 might be a quite fruitful strategy, because if you really think about it, PSG are favorites against Aston Villa. So we will know who the first choice Aston Villa players are and who the first choice Aston Villa team is. If PSG beat them in Europe, which is the likely scenario, we will get a chance to pivot to the right Aston Villa guys in double Game Week 33 by selling our Newcastle players. So that isn't a bad thing if you're just imagining things playing out, because then those players will very likely be useful in Game Week 36 as well.
You could be right there, but the spanner is that you also need for 33, you have to take out your Newcastle players. Of course, you can do Newcastle to Villa, but you want Saka and Haaland. If either of them are picks, they're the best captaincy. And if both are picks, then you need all your transfers on Saka, Haaland, and whoever. You might even need a hit to get both of them. Like sell Isak, sell Salah, sell Palmer, get Saka, get Haaland on and Rogers. Something like that is a path that I have in mind. But we don't have the luxury to do, let's say Asensio looks good, that we do, Cliver to Asensio. That luxury we may not have because there are other big hitters with higher potential. So it's a balance, and this is where we are brainstorming this stuff. It's difficult balance to strike.
Yeah, and that's where it tells you like that Saka point immediately. Like we will know watching 60 minutes of Saka where he is and whether we want him on our draft or not. So while you might be one transfer behind by pushing the wildcard a week later, you got in the right pick, so that transfer doesn't count. So it sort of makes wait for itself anyway.
But again, I think while designing the wildcard now, and we'll talk about picks very soon, you do need to have sort of, plus you sent a draft that can be a bit of a hybrid. You can bench boost in 32 and 33. We'll discuss that. But I like the idea of actually anchoring that I want to bench boost, etc. this week accordingly. And I'm favoring 32. We'll discuss both drafts later. But before we do that, let's just actually discuss some Palace and Newcastle picks in a little bit more in detail. I think they are the most...
Shall we just do a couple of other chip variations? Because we're talking chip strategy here. So there is the assistant manager, guys. There's still about 15-20% people who have the assistant manager chip left. Now, we cannot go through if you have assistant manager and free hit or not free hit. Let's just talk about the windows, right? The window number one is basically you go for 31, 32, 33. Basically, that's your nice window for assistant manager because you get 2 doubles. So you get 5 games. Basically, essentially the thing that we did earlier in the season, you get 5 games through your assistant manager. There's some nice Glasner table bonus games in there. There's some Eddie Howe games if you wanted to go to him in game week 32. You can do the math, but basically the idea is you could get 5 games if you basically wildcard now, assistant manager 31, 32, 33. Then you probably free hit in 34 and you wildcard out of that, and then you bench boost in 36. That could be a viable strategy if you wanted to look at that. Another place to play assistant manager is basically you could just play what everybody else is playing right now, and you choose to play assistant manager at the back end of the season. So if game week 36 gives you 2 games, great. Game week 37 will give you another, it will be a blank game week, but there will still be games there to target, and game week 38. So that could be the problem with 36, 37, 38 is it is a transfer hogger. This chip is basically, it eats up your funds and it eats up your transfers. The only hits I've taken this season were during assistant manager. Ended up taking 3 during those 3 weeks, and it's just something as a pre-warning. So neither is right or wrong, but any other thing on assistant manager, you guys?
I just want to say I clearly prefer playing the assistant manager chip now. Wildcard in 30 and play it on 31, 32, 33. Like when you're talking about managers that you want to back, Glasner is up there. Like, the guys like Glasner, Marco Silva, David Moyes, these are the kind of guys that you want to back from an assistant manager chip, and they have big dog kill potential, and they're in a great run of form. So I would just play it right now because remember when we were having the conversation while playing the assistant manager chip in Gameweek 25, it's maximizing the number of shots that you get for the most powerful chip in the game. The most powerful chip in the game is the assistant manager chip. Prioritize that and then figure out the list later. So I would anchor my wildcard around AM 31, 32, 33 by definitely wanting to play it in 32, 33 because you have the advantage of getting 4 games of Glasner without spending a transfer.
Just to spin another side on that, the fixtures for that are Man City, Newcastle, Bournemouth, and Arsenal. These are much better teams than Fulham. Would it surprise you if Palace won none of those games?
Yes, but this is like Game Week 25, 26, 27 deja vu. That's why I went Emery and Moyes, right?
No, you guys had a very nice barbell approach. You had one easy game and one table bonus game for both, which was actually the perfect combination.
Correct. But that's overcompensated by the fact that Palace is better than Everton. Realistically speaking, it's just a better team in a much better run of form at the moment as well. And also, while we are playing devil's advocate, Palace is playing these teams when these other teams are distracted. Let me look at Palace's fixtures. Where are they? Where can I find them?
So it's in front. So Palace will basically in 32 play away to Man City and away to Newcastle.
Those are both table bonus.
Now they're right now basically, I think they're on a record of 6 wins in a row away without conceding a goal. First team to ever do that, and now they're playing Southampton away as well. So they're good away from home. Their tactics work away from home. That doesn't mean it's easy to beat Newcastle and Man City away and Arsenal away after that.
Yeah, the barbell point you made is a good point. It's still, that's where I would prioritize. Don't you think you want more shots at the cake if you're looking at the assistant manager chip?
I don't know, man, because I think you can get like your 20 points even later on in the season because we target teams maybe who are on the beach, etc., etc. Just seems like you're locking yourself out of the entire TCB because you might not even have like the doubles later being that great.
I mean, TC is not significant in my opinion. I'm not looking to play the TC.
And people who don't have AM left probably played their TC earlier on Salah.
Yeah.
Like they were not doing nothing during that period.
That's true.
So, and like, let's be perfectly honest, Game Week 32-33 from a bench boost point of view is underwhelming. Isn't great. Like, you're not missing out on much. Like, we're just convincing ourselves, it's an exciting period, but we're not getting much. We're getting one keeper who plays 2 games, and we're getting 3 more single game weekers. One of them includes Salah, and that's why we're comforting ourselves.
The doubles themselves, they're not that great if you look at them in terms of the fixtures.
But there's a con as well. So people with assistant manager don't need to get too excited. The problem in Game Week 35 wildcard, your wildcard is going to be very weird. Because after Game Week 35...
30 plus, they can just wildcard in 30 then.
No, what I meant, okay, so if you were wildcarding then, but what I mean is, even if 35 onwards, if you're looking to bench boost, because you still have to play a bench boost at some point, right? So bench boosting in Game Week 36 and building up to Game Week 36 bench boost may be a little bit harder because you were not using so many transfers. You may lose points basically through that other people are grabbing players, like Saka becomes available. You couldn't go there because you had to use your transfer, or your funds are still stuck in your assistant manager. So these are things that may basically impact on a secondary basis. And then my point after game week 35 is going to be a very tricky period after game week 35, because look, Chelsea play Liverpool, so people have Palmer, but he plays Liverpool. In fact, Chelsea have bad fixtures because they play Liverpool, then Newcastle play Chelsea, then Arsenal play Liverpool. So they all play each other to a large extent in that period, notwithstanding the fact that gaming 37 could be a blank for teams like Man City. So it's going to be a very tough period as well. So that's just something to monitor, that if you're not focusing on your team a lot, if you're focusing on assistant manager, that team could look pretty bad by the time you get to game week 34, 35, when other people could be up on transfers. But that's the only con I can think of. I would personally think of 31, 32, 33 as the good window to play assistant manager for 5 games, and that's it.
Anything else?
Before we move forward, there's one thing I want to address. Is this, I think let's go through in depth the BB32 versus BB33, because I think that would anchor and give a clarity to a lot of our thoughts. And I think having this slide in front of us is just, so the process that I'm wanting to go through this is just looking at game week 33 fixtures. So City will likely have 3 City anyway. So that's 3 out of 15. Arsenal will likely have 3 Arsenal anyway. So we're looking at 6 out of 15
City
done.
we may have 2.
City we may have 2. I was just about to say, because City, who will you buy apart from your Guardiola? And let's say Haaland isn't fit, Marmoush, because it's very unlikely. Let's say it depends on the Salah thing also, right? Most of us will not want to drop Salah because he has Leicester in 33. If you're going to drop Salah, then you can get maybe a Foden and Saka alongside.
Fair shout. So, okay, because of lack of clarity of third pick, let's say between Arsenal and City, we've got 5 picks covered on an average. Okay. The team I wanted to talk about actually is Liverpool. Liverpool play Leicester away. And all of us are looking at this 5, 6, 7 million sort of midfielder or a 5 million defender who doesn't necessarily have a double that is in our squad as a placeholder. So the point I'm trying to make is, are we overlooking the likes of Szoboszlai, maybe Konate, who could become options that give us a strong bench boost by playing Liverpool against Leicester at home? I want to explore the chances of this when we are sort of broadly brainstorming together as well, because then you're getting good players for the tenure of the games because they don't have anything else to play for.
Bradley would have been very interesting, but apparently he's injured. Konza has been covering for him. Konza is only 3.9.
Bradley's back now. I mean, he has been training apparently, but you can't take a punt, right? You don't know if it's a recurrence. This is the time where you have to get a little boring, I feel, like, anyway, sorry, Ella.
That one big piece of information, by the way, is also a big piece of information that you would have gotten on a 31 wildcard, just while brainstorming about everything that we're considering together, because I think the best time to do this is do it together rather than figuring out late in the night by ourselves individually. So I think somebody like Szoboszlai, etc., just think about them, because they could be nailed. Aston Villa, we'll have 2 or 3 picks. Spurs is interesting. Again, I want to talk about Spurs because you're getting a home game against Forest. At the moment, there are no picks and they're prioritizing Europe. That's the problem, because they could potentially have a double in 36. So you're sort of semi-bluffing by getting a decent Forest home game. I don't know how decent it is, but maybe a chance for a double. Then Chelsea are out of it because they play Fulham away and then they play Newcastle. So that's out. Newcastle, we are talking about, they have Chelsea at home in 36, so that's done. United have Wolves at home. That's pretty interesting. Actually,
Manchester United.
No, but like somebody like a Dorgo, a cheap 4.5 million defender, because people are looking at the likes of Van Bissaka because they play Southampton at home in game week 33, and potentially have a double if Forest win. So look, I think what we need to do is, for these fringe spots, we're looking at 4th or 5th defenders, 5th midfielder, striker is template.
West Ham is an interesting one. West Ham is an interesting one in that sense, because you have Areola there at a 4.2 goalkeeper. You have Kilman, etc., who are dirt cheap over. Then you only need them that week. You can bench them for the rest. They might still have a double in 36.
It's your insurance against getting fully screwed if Forest win against City in the FA Cup. That's why Areola with Bissaka, Bowen, decent picks as just a little bit of insurance and a good 33.
Even Bournemouth, for example, I was looking at bench boost 32 now. For example, Kepa has a decent fixture there. It potentially might have a double in 36. Something like that.
Bournemouth are interesting.
They're interesting when we talk about them, because I still like keeping them for the short term and then switching them to Villa potentially, because the fixtures are really good for a while. But go on, let's continue.
And a good 30. And a good 30. Ipswich at home. Ipswich at home, so that's nice. But Bournemouth in 33 is tough. Palace away. Fulham, not much. Wolves, not much. Everton, not much. Brentford, have Brighton at home. How do you guys?
But very good,
Not
very
that.
bad build up to that.
Very bad build up to that. Forest have Spurs at home, which is interesting.
No,
Actually, quite
Spurs
interesting.
away.
Let's say
Spurs away.
Spurs away. So, like, I'm thinking somebody like Ilanga as a fifth midfielder, not a bad shout, especially because he's playing as a striker in his new role, where he's running beyond Wood. That's what we saw. So you're giving him Spurs away, doesn't occupy that much cash, and then you have a insurance for a double game week in 36 should Forest beat Spurs. So that's there. And then Southampton, West Ham. So I think the only three teams that you can potentially look at which are not doublers that you want to pivot and fill the fringe positions with, if you're looking to bench boost in 33, are West Ham, Nottingham Forest, and Man United. Just a little bit of X.
There's one more dynamic to this LR now that comes now with the double game week 36. I'll give you an example. Now, let's say you go with a goalkeeper combination of, let's say, Henderson and Martinez. Right? Let's say you skip out on Munoz. Now, what that's going to give you, going to give you a double game week keeper in 32, two double game week keepers in 33, and a guaranteed double game week keeper in 36. Because one of Palace or Villa are going to make the final. Certain things like that also play into that. But then again, are you prepared to go without Munoz? Are you prepared to run without?
And then also give you a confirmed keeper in 37.
And a 37 as well.
Because the other keeper. It's actually a very nice combination.
Things like that. They lend itself better now to a bench boost 33 than it does a bench boost 32. It's not as bad in 32, but you still get Henderson and Martinez as Southampton. So the 36 thing also becomes a lot more interesting in that sense.
Yeah. I think it might be a good activity to just look at 32 the same way we looked at 33 and just of what the anchor possibilities are. Just so that, because I think this is a big decision that a lot of people are struggling with that are wildcarding 30 in terms of when do they want to bench boost, 32 or 33. I think it's a pretty key decision as well.
Let's have a look at the 32 fixture.
Palace at home. You don't mind playing your City players against Palace at home because they are not playing Europe. Arsenal is an issue because Madrid on both sides. So the slight issue with the bench boost with your Arsenal players is just that little doubt.
But that being said, let's say Rhea, Gabriel, and Saka, if he's fit, most likely it will play.
Yeah. You think so? But that little doubt, like I'd say 5%.
Saka, we don't know.
Saka is maybe the only doubt, but Rhea, Gabriel, for example, let's say assume you go with the defenders, you say you're going to get Saka by 33, it's fine.
Yeah. I would wait for Saka for 33, basically. Yeah. Just watching his minutes, especially for that Brentford game. Like he will definitely start the both Real Madrid games, but we have to see what happens around it. Like Nwaneri did fine, right? And league is going. So, but anyway, that's
Palmer till then as a placeholder or even a.
And he has Ipswich. Palmer has Ipswich that week, so there's no need to lose it.
Right. Liverpool do a good job here also. West Ham at home. So let's say if you're holding on to a couple of fringe Liverpool players, I wish we had information on Bradley. Then you can actually decide and play the flexible bench boost in 32 or 33 option. Banking on that also. West Ham unfortunately go out because they play Liverpool away then. So they're out of the picture. Villa are going to be fine. But again, both sides are PSG. Spurs, Wolves away, but they're both sides
but even
are
Villa,
Europe.
Let's just dial back. You could, let's say, I think a Martinez and Konsa, the combination with Pras mentioned, is relatively low risk. Now, Rodgers and Rashford, Pras and I were having a bit of a debate. I still think Rodgers could be benched, even though he's played every minute. With the 6-day turnaround they have with PSG, I don't think even Rodgers is safe to start 32. I think he's
not safe, but hear me out. Basically, what has happened is Asensio has come in, and Asensio plays basically as the shadow striker, or basically that's why he's been getting so many goals, like behind. That's where Rodgers was playing. But when Asensio starts, Rodgers is either shifted to the right or he's a little bit of a rotation risk. On the left, you have Jacob Murphy and Rashford, and so what I feel is Asensio could.
Jacob Ramsey.
Yeah, what did I say?
Murphy.
Okay, Jacob Ramsey. Yeah. So so basically, what you could see is Asensio playing Europe because he's more of a European style player.
He's on loan from PSG, but you're allowed to play in the Champions League.
He can play, and so if he plays Europe, then who plays number 10 in the league? It's Rodgers. That's why I like Rodgers from that point of view.
Could be Malen.
Malen plays on the right. Like he could play up top or on the right, but of course, there are a lot of options. We're all guessing. But we are all trying to second guess what happens in that Southampton fixture, which is the money fixture.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing. Like, it won't be a dud team. Like, I was just looking at the table just for confirmation bias. Aston Villa are 3 points away from Manchester City, who are sitting at 5th. And Champions League matters that much to them. So the point I'm trying to make is how important every league game is for all these teams
100%.
crunched up in the middle of the table. So we might think that okay, they're going to field a very weak team against Southampton. No, they need to get those 3 points. They can't afford to get 1 point in that away game to Southampton because they're prioritizing PSG. So
That being said, it is Southampton with a 6-day turnaround with the PSG thing. I think it is going to be at least 6 or 7 changes.
It's a 6-day turnaround, so
Yes, Wednesday, Tuesday.
Wow,
And we saw what happened with Liverpool.
man, that makes it even trickier.
That makes
Jeez,
it
that makes
trickier.
it
That's
even-
why what I'm thinking, hold Clivert till then switch him out for like your midfielder.
Yeah.
How many transfers will you make from 32 to 33?
That's why I don't.
man?
That's why I don't want to bother with the Newcastle guys. No, shipping them out in 33.
You want to bench boost in 32 for that reason.
Yeah.
Your guy doesn't even come on 32. I just feel 32 is riskier. Like
Yeah,
they
it
could
is
be
riskier.
like you could have Gabriel and the guy decides, you know what, between Madrid, Gabriel had a little limp.
Potential. Yes.
Give him a time off. It's a single game week. In 33, at least you have so many teams doubling. Your team will at least have 9 or 10 doublers in your 11. So the risk of like a no-show of the guy like not showing up at all is just lower. It's no right answer. And I think when you will come to my draft, I'll try to show that I'm trying to go for a hybrid approach where I've built so that I don't need a transfer till game week 32, and I will play my bench boost if the team looks good. But if the team doesn't look good, then I will also be ready to play bench boost in 33. I guess I have that slight like, no, actually you guys also have it because you can play a triple captain any week. You don't need to plan for a triple captainship.
And like Pras, the one thing that comes to my mind is you got money. Look at Liverpool. Just a great, solid bench
But
boost
who?
option. Konate, Van Dijk, like they're
Dude,
decent.
defenders.
and
We have
Soboslai.
Avengers as defenders
Yeah.
right now. People are thinking of not going for Munoz. That's how good defenders are right now in terms of you definitely want Guardiola, you definitely want Gabriel, you definitely want one Newcastle defender like you could have Trippier or Livramento or even Dan Burn. So there are like when you shared that little, I don't know if you are going to show LR's 5-minute draft,
Sure.
basically the thing you quickly looked at.
Yeah.
Suddenly you'll find that actually you don't need to play Munoz any week, like apart from the double, because the other defenders are so solid. This week, you're not going to bench Gabriel. You're not going to bench Guardiola. If you have Trippier, you probably play Trippier home to Brentford. Then are you going to bench Munoz away to Southampton? So defenders are plenty. This is why there's a discussion on Palace to be had on who are the right Palace.
Yeah.
And I know we love Munoz, like not to hurt anyone's feelings. You know from the pod that we love Munoz.
Soboslai then. But I just these are loud thinking. Like I'm doing my homework now so that I don't have to do it later. That's all.
Of course.
Okay, let's just carry the 32 pivoting, anchoring wildcard bench boost conversation on. Villa have Southampton, we discussed that. Spurs would have been interesting if their games weren't bookended by the European games because they're clearly prioritizing Europe as a United. Chelsea have switch at home. Somebody like Palmer could be interesting on your bench boost just because you don't mind playing him against Ipswich at home. Newcastle are fine. They have the double. United have Newcastle away between the two European games, so they're a no-go. If you're going United as your fringe assets, then you go with them in a bench boost in 33. West Ham, no. Brighton have Leicester at home. It's interesting. So if you want to go for somebody like Mitoma,
you know Verbruggen as a second goalkeeper.
That's interesting. Brighton are interesting. The problem is there's no insurance there in the future of a future double or blank coverage.
That's why I like
But
Kepa
they're playing
more.
all game.
Kepa is potentially better because Kepa has Fulham at home this week and a potential double in 36.
Yeah.
36.
Bournemouth have Fulham at home. That's what you mentioned. That's why going in with a Clivert right now as a fifth midfielder isn't a bad idea at all. Because you're likely going to get a double in the future also. That's a good spot to just hold on. If you're bench boosting in 32, it's quite tight between the two. Wolves, interesting. Again, they play Spurs at home. So if you want to get a Wolves midfielder, the thing is you can't get any other striker. So Cunha is out of the picture. Because Isak, Mateta and Marmoush is as strong as it get from a template perspective. But if you want to go for a Wolves midfielder or defender, potential double in the future, but Spurs is not good for clean sheets. Thinking out loud. Everton have Forest away. Brentford have Arsenal away. No. Forest have Everton at home. Forest are a team that you can get Elanga in. Like I think they're competing with Clivert for that position because you're getting a decent player in either 32 or 33 and a potential doubler in the future as well. So that's
and
nice
good
bit
fixtures. Very good fixtures.
Good
Now the only team they play from the top 8 are Chelsea, and Chelsea are a bit of a rubbish defense.
Yeah. Like you don't mind going for a defender or an attacker as your fifth defender or fifth attacker in the fringe positions. Decent bet. And that's it. Then the promoted teams. So I think if you're looking at 32, you're looking at Bournemouth and Forest. And if you're looking at 33, you're looking at United, Forest, and West Ham. That's about it.
West Ham is a big one there.
Yeah.
Forest not
with
so
the
much,
And
because
if you're looking
Forest,
at
Forest you have
6 double also.
Tottenham away, not that great.
But from an attacking point of view, it's fine, man. Like Elanga, I would be happy to play against Forest on a bench boost.
And also you have to keep in mind 33, then we might have to play 1 or 2 Newcastle players away to Villa.
Yeah.
That's another thing you have to consider, and how highly you rate that fixture for them.
Yep. I hope us doing this activity sort of helped you clarify where you could go with your bench boost. We're just doing our
confused
homework
further.
on
And
the
also
job.
another thing, going back to the Villa point, I think you mentioned about them being tired. You have to remember that they'll be playing on the Tuesday against PSG. It's Wednesday, Tuesday turnaround. So before they play Newcastle, which is at home, they will have a significant period of rest. I don't think that point really holds that much water, that they are tired after Europe, etc., in this case.
Good point.
Because Newcastle
Good
will
point.
also be
Understand.
coming back of a bit of a fixture congestion. They'll play United, Palace, and then Villa. Villa will be their third game as well.
Fair point.
Let's talk about those guys now for a bit. Newcastle and Palace. I've got a lot of images and data over here.
Yeah, last thing I want to say
Yeah.
is for people without a free hit, because I had somebody in the comments also, please don't forget about us. Look, people without a free hit, all you have to do is basically, the good thing is in 34, you have a Newcastle game against Ipswich. So you keep your Newcastle triple up through 33. Basically, you have them for the double in 32, you have them for 33, and then you have 3 of them for home to Ipswich. And then other guys, like Palmer, like Salah, don't get rid of those. Like those can be your anchors because those have good fixtures in 34 as well. I think that's all I can say on people without a free hit, right? Without actually looking through each of these fixtures. I think you just have to find a way where 34 becomes your main thing, where you're not basically getting massively screwed.
So you have to pick where you want to go against the template. And there are some decent bets to make against the template. That's what you need to decide. The good thing is we don't have convincing fixtures for anybody. Like we said, Palace's fixtures are a little tough. But they have a double double.
With Palace double not going to compromise. Arsenal also, I would say, a decent double.
Yeah.
Ipswich and
so
Palace.
You compromise on a
home.
Villa.
Compromise on your Villa, and even Man City, for example, Guardiola.
Go to.
Guardiola could be like you're playing centre back. You had the guy who came on at left back yesterday. He was quite good. You might see him play a few games. Guardiola at centre back doesn't offer that much. City aren't a great defense. Maybe
Another piece of information. O'Reilly could be a pick in 31. We just don't have enough to go there right now.
Yeah.
Like just in terms of at every point talking about what will be the benefit of waiting till 31. Like these picks like Bradley, O'Reilly, Trippier. Much more conviction next week if we go for them.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Go ahead, of course.
No, you go on. It's a separate question.
Trippier, I just now, since we raised a Trippier question, would you be looking to hold him through LR past like 32?
Yeah, I think he's a good pick, man. I genuinely think because what's his only threat? Botman coming on, and then they play Burn as a wing back and Livramento back to Trippier's position. Like that's his only threat. Otherwise, he's good for the rest of the season. And he's creating some chances. He's taking corners. He's a bonus points monster. Like for somebody like Pras, who's got additional team value over the others, I would like him. And Trippier's process boy for ages.
Very, very much like Trippier. My only risk is he's very. I see him very injury prone these days. Like he has some kind of an issue every game. So I just don't want to be screwed on a bench boost. Like if one of your safe players gets injured, right, that screws up a lot of your future plans. So I'm being a little conservative, but yeah, I had a draft with Trippier for sure. Like I definitely think he's a good pick with good upside, and he's going to take up all the corners, all the free kicks, which makes Gordon slightly worse as well. So that's a secondary point. But yeah, Trippier when he plays is great.
Also on Guardiola, not had a shot in 5 games now. It's 5 games, no shot from Guardiola.
Just a hygiene pick, man. Like the odd game where he plays, even if it's a double on the left, where he's bombarding forward, he's one City defender who is the most nailed. You don't want to go, like if people want to avoid him, sure. Like, but who else are you getting? Like this guy could have a double in 33 and 36. So
and we got 20 plus points something the double. I remember that late last season. The potential is there.
That could change the way he plays.
If you're into unreasonable bougie stuff, like Guardiola likes the end of the season. Twice in a row, he's gone crazy at this point of the season.
I had a question for you guys. You guys with triple captaincy left, because I want to cover all chips on this. Let's put you on the spot. Game week 32, you have Isak home to Man United and home to Palace. And game week 33, let's assume neither Saka or Haaland are fit. Who is your triple captaincy in Gameweek 33 then, if neither of them are fit?
I'm looking to use a triple captaincy chip in 36.
I'd probably save it for
Well-
36. I don't even mind if I'm going with somebody like a Chris Wood or a Watkins.
I'll wait for the doubles. The
But what if they're none?
upside.
What if they're in 37?
I'll use a single game weaker. I want a chance.
Nah, I don't think you guys are
on
going to
getting-
let go of a double. Just like that.
So I'll use I'm not planning to use the triple captaincy chip until gaming 35. I've decided that. Like I've made
And
that
take the
decision.
risk that they stay in 37.
Yes, I've taken the
There's no
decision.
double. Okay.
I've taken the decision because the upside where City plays Southampton away one game and the other game being a double, I just think is way higher, and I want to take on Isak against United and Palace.
Okay. And use off same.
I think so.
No,
so
Zoph is using it.
I won't, if I'm not using the bench boost in 32, I'll probably go with Isak. Then in 33, I'm very tempted by Saka. So I do think, I'm pretty confident, we're going to get flamed in the comments for this, that Madrid will eliminate Arsenal, in which case Arsenal will want to focus on the league again. I like the Ipswich Palace double over there. If not, I'll save it for 36.
No, I think Saka is a good shot. This is why I wanted to ask you this question, because in case you say, Isak is way better because of minutes, he's going to get the good minutes, he's in form, then you need to be anchoring more towards 33 just for that reason. But if you guys are open to other weeks and other stuff, then that's fine as well.
Yeah, but that's a good point to make, that you could anchor and get done with 180 minutes of Isak, 2 home games without any worry. That's a good point to make, like for those that don't want to.
Like, I'm more scared of people using it versus Isak than any other week. Like, Saka could miss one game, he could have minutes managed. We don't know, right? I mean, we are still working in the blind. Saka is generally a great pick, but you don't know if Haaland is fit or not for 33. Haaland would have been a great triple captaincy. So as of now, information known now, I fear that the most, but you never know. Yeah, for 36, Haaland could be fit and he could be a great captain, triple captain.
The thing is, I just personally, I like having something to look forward to in the last 3 weeks of the season. Going chipless haunts me. So just having a little bit of ammunition, some powder dry is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, you'll have Europa League final, man. For Man United.
What will Man City's double be like? I'm having a difficulty reading this graph. At 36, they have Southampton. 37, they have Bournemouth. So the double would be Southampton and Bournemouth in that case, right?
Correct.
Yes.
That's a very good double.
Exactly.
Yeah, but for that, you're banking that A, they beat Nottingham Forest, and B, the fixture does move. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right.
But the likelihood of that happening is good.
High.
By
Higher
the
than it
precedents
was
that
yesterday.
said.
Or if not, you get Chris Wood, who has Leicester and West Ham.
That would be so Zoph. Triple captaincy, Chris Wood, game week 36.
That will just be playing homage to the FPL Wire. And none of us have been very hot on Wood all season, so it'd be just nice to end it
That
way.
guy has trolled me this year. I'm not happy with him. Him and Bruno, I love those picks, and they've not been very kind. But just before we move on, 1,100 people watching, and just to say that we will get through the super chats in the end, so don't worry. All of your super chats will be read, and we'll go through them. And also, if you do like, we only have about 200 likes at the moment, so find a second, just press the like button. It'll help us out. Only 24 hours left or something to the deadline. So thank you.
And while we're doing that, a little bit of a shout out to the content creators, because I do know that a fair few of you watch us. If you like what we've done, share on Twitter, get the word out there. We'd really appreciate it.
Now let's talk, guys, specifically about Palace and Newcastle picks, because really they are going to form the core of our team now. Even this is important for guys who are not using a wildcard, right? Because in terms of transfers, these are players you are looking to target, if not this week, at least next week. First up, let's look at the Palace midfielders, Eze and Sarr. And it's quite interesting in terms of the data, right? You look at the attempts now for Eze, it's 83, Sarr has 43. But in terms of shots in the box, Sarr is significantly higher. And in terms of big chances, Eze has had 7, Sarr has had 17. 7.81 xG for Sarr. So Eze has accumulated the season's 6th highest number of shots every 23.2 minutes, but he's only scored 2 goals. So he has a worse conversion rate in the division, 2.4%. But streaky player.
Even worse than Semenyo.
Even worse. But streaky player, as we saw, that goal against Fulham was spectacular. He just looked
and
very,
for
very
England.
sharp. And for England as well. And Glasner mentioned that the goal for England, etc., gave him confidence. So perhaps we should be looking to capitalize on that. Let's look at some more. This is something I found very interesting also. This is the very, very good data we found from Scout. Again, we can't plug their membership enough. Now look at the XG buckets. Look at the majority of his shots, where they are. The 0.02, less than 0.05 XG is where he takes most of his attempts. Very
He
speculative
shoots.
shots.
He does a lot of pop shots. I mean, a lot of his goals are outside the box, just so the edge of the box, that curler that's going through the keeper. But you take more, you get more. Like, I mean, you could take 100 of those or get two big chances like a Visa. You might end up over a long term scoring the same number of goals, I suppose. Like, he's
Right.
still a class player. But he's lost two very important things. One is pens, which we think Mateta will take. And also he's lost corners, like at least on one side to Hughes. But all of those are still, the way I think about it is, if you want to play for the long term and for lots of minutes, lots of games, you could have double for this guy. You want the guy who has route to points, and he has more route to points than Sar. Simple as that. Like, he does have the free kick potential, the corner potential. If Mateta goes off because of his year, whatever, if he's not starting because of his thing, as is on penalties, I just think if money is not an object, then he's still a better pick, no matter what the numbers say. But money is an object, so I understand Sar as well.
But something also I want to discuss here, Pras. Now I'll share the image. Let me bring that up. The counter attacks. Which team has conceded the most? A different one. Bring that up. This is very interesting.
That the
Oh,
tougher games suit Sar.
Tougher game suits are. Now you look at now.
That is also a
These are the
logic I was
teams in
thinking
terms
about.
of the counter attacking shots conceded. See, all Newcastle, Man City, they're all up here in terms of the worst sides. In terms of conceding shots from counter attacks. So they're actually good matchups, better for Sar. Even Arsenal, not so much. And also in terms of the XG data, right? Look at that. Palace are right up there. In the last 6 matches, they're top for XG in the division. Getting back to this now, we talk about creativity. Again, here Eze is far ahead. Here there's absolutely no comparison, but Sar has created more big chances in terms of XA. He's still higher.
It's volume.
Basically. And again, we look at the positioning also over here. You see over here now on the left side is Eze. Sar is on the right. Sar is always much more inside the box. It's more of a presence inside the penalty area. Look at the shot location for Eze. Eze, look, the shots are like somewhere literally in the halfway side of the pitch. Sar's almost all on the left side over here. Much more central.
It's something that Glassers mentioned in a couple of press conferences as well. When they're cutting the ball from the corner sides, when either wing backs are crossing, Sar is the second guy who's responsible for heading the ball inside. He scored a couple of header goals as well. So the rate is heading ability. He's plays an ancillary striker as well.
And again, the data over here in terms of shots on target for Palace. Sar is up there with Mateta. Eze is there as well. But in terms of shots to the box, that's where really Sar makes his money. And in terms of big chances as well. Now let's look at some of the data for the Newcastle guys. I want to talk about.
Wait.
Shall we finish Palace?
Yes.
What are we thinking?
Should talk. Yeah.
Let's talk first about, I think, Mateta versus the two midfielders. And notice that also a lot of people are potentially thinking of going without Mateta and going for the two midfielders instead. Do you guys think that's a viable strategy?
I just think without Haaland, it's become harder. Like, who are your strikers? Like, I think between Mamouche, without Haaland, clear pick. I think this guy, the other guy, Isak, clear pick. And then for the third, you're basically saying, I don't want Mateta, but then who else? Like Evanilson or João Pedro, or there is no doubling attacker, right? You could go Ollie Watkins, but I wouldn't commit to Watkins now. Like, his fixture now isn't the best. Maybe from next week. So for me,
Henderson Munoz, but I don't like the fixtures for defense as much. You don't want to double up on the defense at all, I think. Henderson Munoz would be out the window for me first up.
Yeah, but who would you get as a third striker? That's my first issue. Like, if you're not getting Mateta.
Cunha. We saw that if you're bench boosting 32, Cunha plays Spurs
at
home.
Evanilson has Ipswich this week, 32 Fulham.
So from the teams that we discussed on the bench boost, 32, 33, like Cunha has a very good probability of 36, 37 double as well, right? So something like that. But I prefer Mateta. Like Zoph, while watching the game yesterday, commented in the group, he's Mr. Year Pirate now. And just because I want to use Year Pirate, in our Discord and on Twitter, and plus we love the guy. He's been very good to us towards the back end of last season as well. He's talismanic and streaky as they come. So I prefer Mateta.
I think I'd agree with that as well. And now, plus, I've noticed in your draft, for example, you've gone with both Eze and Sar over a defense. What are you thinking there?
Yeah, so basically, this is where these discussions become a little hard to have, because it's not because I prefer Sar over Munoz or Eze over Munoz. I don't think the delta between an Arsenal defender and Munoz is as much as the delta between Sarr and another guy I get. That's what I'm trying to solve for. So it's not that I think somebody. Ideally, you go for Munoz, you go for Eze. Again, if money is not an object, and you go for Mateta. I think those would be the three money no object. But then you try to solve for, okay, I have a fifth midfielder problem. I don't really have anybody else. Why don't I just put Sarr in there? And for Munoz, why don't I just put Saliba as my third Arsenal defender? Like something like that. And then it feels like, yeah, that's not bad. Like, what am I sacrificing? Okay, I don't have Munoz, but then nobody else has triple Palace attack. And the other thing with Palace is they are doing well, but I see them conceding in every game. Like, okay, you can talk about all these records that they have, but dude, away to Newcastle, away to Man City, away to Arsenal, and even home to Bournemouth, like they're conceding in all four. Like maybe one clean sheet, but Munoz is not a defender. I know that's what LR is going to say right now, and I understand that.
So, no. My point is, I'm with you. Like,
yeah.
Palace's fixtures are more conducive to attack than defense. Agree with you. So I can understand people skipping Munoz. I get it. For Arsenal defender who are a better defense, who got more clean sheet fixtures, so I get it.
Because you can have double Arsenal defense and Guardiola. That's 3 defenders sorted. Then you add a Trippier, 4 defenders sorted. So you're not really missing as such a Munoz as much as you can basically take advantage of having Sarr, Eze, and Mateta. That was basically the thinking.
Fixtures I still think for Munoz are there in terms of potential. Like, look at Southampton, Brighton, that you have the 2 doubles over there. Then you have Forest, Tottenham, Wolves. They're all 10 plus 7 points there.
Well, whatever those fixtures are there for Munoz are there for Sarr and Eze are both equally good picks. When we're talking about Sarr versus Eze also, right? The point is that there's not much to split between the two. Right? Sarr has the better big chances, but Eze is short popping. And all three of us come from a school of thought where we do believe in confidence. And there is an instinct in at least me that is saying that yes, Eze is he's showing the signs that he's at the beginning of a run of points, because we've seen that with players and we believe in form and confidence. So with Palace, the thing is you've got 6 good picks. Actually, Mitchell has created more chances than Munoz in the last 4-5 games. And he's had the same number of big chances as Munoz as well. So there are 6 good picks in this team. You just have to pick your 3.
With Arsenal also, the thing is, and Pras mentioned, I'd really like Rhea as a pick. I think if you're going with your double defense, you're potentially locking yourself out of Saka. That I don't like. Because the thing is, you look at Rhea, right? Rhea is literally playable in every week now besides 36. And we can be sometimes too tunnel vision into these doubles. We also have to look at the fixtures outside them. What about game week 30, 31, 35, 38, etc.?
And these are the guys who are going to start every game, even if the league is lost, right? So, yeah, I think Arsenal defense will be very popular. Double will be normal.
That's the problem with going for somebody like Timber, even where you might get the next 3 or 4 fixtures from him, but then once they've lost the league and the likes of Ben White and Calafiori are around, they become dodgy game week 34 onwards towards the fag end of the season. So I agree with you guys.
Correct. Even Skelly, like he could play on the left. Like there's lots of now places for those. I think Timber is the first choice. He'll probably be the guy who starts against Real Madrid, but there's other factors with Arsenal, like you said.
I think this just comes down to how much you believe in Edson. There's also a significant price difference of 1.1 million. What that gets you. Otherwise, I think, for example, that's the difference between a Rodgers and a Rashford. But I think the ceiling could potentially be significantly different.
So basically, Sarr plus Rashford versus Rodgers plus Eze, something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's close. Yeah.
I don't think this
Rashford is the only thing is a single pointer, man. Like then if I go Rashford, right? I mean, we'll come to Villa in a second. If I go Rashford, my confidence in bench boost 32 just drops massively. I'm not sure.
But one thing is, I think we are pretty certain now that Rashford is on pens, because Asensio took a pen when Watkins was on the pitch
on this weekend as well. I was wrong earlier mentioning that Asensio was in the chat, corrected me. So Rashford took one even with Asensio on the pitch.
So Asensio took a pen when Watkins took a pen. So when Watkins was in the pitch, and Rashford took a pen when Asensio was on the pitch. So you can say that Rashford is first choice penalty taker. He takes all the set pieces as well. So he's got routes to points, Rashford.
I just like him as a high ceiling pick, because ultimately we are expecting Villa to go out, right? Let's be honest, against PSG. And after that, in like 34, etc., I want Rashford, not Rodgers.
Rodgers is as good, man. This is basically Mitoma, March, and McAllister again.
I don't agree with that. I think Rashford is a different class of player.
But he doesn't start every game, Zoph. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about from 34 on.
Yeah, but even then he may not start every game. Like
I think when they have
Jacob
only one
Ramsey
game a week,
start.
He could start, but again, I think he would be part of the first choice 11 going forward. He wants to play for a move to Barcelona next season, etc., etc. Just think the caliber is there.
Of course, caliber is there. You no disagreement.
I know obviously who I'm preaching to over here, but let's just getting back to the whole Sar and Eze thing. I think if you can afford it, Eze I think does feel better, but again, Sar isn't a bad option. At 5.6, he's really good value.
Objectively, if you're looking at data, Sar is better. But I just think that if there is a feeling that Eze could be better, I don't mind it. So literally, I have no strong opinion on this matter here.
And you're
Like, go
likely
with your
holding
feeling.
this guy till 37, 38.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long-term pick. The Palace
Yeah.
guy isn't
So-
going anywhere.
So a good thing to think then is that money could come in handy when we're looking at other more expensive assets. Like at some point we want to fit Saka, Haaland, and Salah in our teams, right? So budgets could be tight. So maybe saving the money now, just because when there's not much in it, also could be a decent option.
I just like the matchups for Sar a bit more that are coming.
Yep, fair shot.
Cool, let's move
Fair
to
shot. It's
Villa
not enough.
now.
I haven't got Villa data. I have primarily got data from these two sides, Newcastle
So
and
let's do
Palace.
Newcastle.
Yep.
Let's do Newcastle.
Newcastle, obviously, Isak haven't got much over here. I want to talk about Jacob Murphy a little bit. I think he's quite popular in drafts. And then also, I looked for data between Burn and Livramento. There's not much over there either. Livramento hasn't really created much, but I think he did get the assist in the cup final. So there's some potential over there. With Burn, the problem is he's on 8 yellow cards. I think the amnesty is around game week 32.
It's
Essentially-
32, yeah.
So he essentially needs to not get booked in like 2 of the next 3 fixtures.
Four.
Oh yeah, right. Of course, because the earlier fixture was right. So it's 4 fixtures. So in that case, you'd probably favor Livramento then. But yeah, in terms of Jacob Murphy, I was interesting to read that he's actually set up 8 of Isak's 19 goals. So there is a bit of a relationship there. He's actually started every game since game week 14. A large sample size, but I think the fitness of Gordon will play a big part. Whether I think Murphy can be considered completely nailed on, because most of the time they've had only 1 game a week, right? That's when Murphy has
Yeah.
started. When Gordon comes back, he might have the Harvey Barnes factor as well. But let's
No.
have a look at some of the data. Go ahead.
I'm pretty convinced he's nailed. They function better as a team with Murphy in the team because he does a lot of the running back and leg work. They've tried
Okay,
Barnes and
okay.
Gordon and they haven't been as effective.
Some of the data over here. Now Murphy beats Gordon for big chances created, 10 versus 6. 13 but however, his 13 attacking returns are a big overachievement on a 7.55 XGI. But yeah, like you mentioned, big part of the team now. Big chance creator. 8 assists provided by Jacob Murphy, while Alexander Isak marks the most productive return of any duo this season.
For 5 million, that's great, man. 13 returns is great for that price and
Okay.
pretty nailed on.
But tell me something now. If you're picking Murphy now in Game Week 30 wildcard, would we be playing him and now against Brentford and against Leicester? Would he just be on your bench?
I see if there's an option to play him against Leicester, but definitely wouldn't play him against Brentford.
Not Brentford. There's too many other good picks.
Somebody against Brentford, and let's say if you're getting somebody like a Clivert as in place, you're probably not going to be playing him in 31 either. So my point is, if you're going to be playing Murphy only in 32 and then planning to ship him in 33, is it even worth buying?
Two doubles at home, man. Like there's always
No,
upside. to
one
get a
double at
doubler.
home. But my point is, you're ultimately, let's say you're benching him in 30, you're benching him in 31, playing him in 32 and in 33. If you want to bench boost, you're thinking of selling him.
Or you
Yeah.
can keep him also. It's not the end of the world. But I understand your
Yes.
point. But who is there that you want in 33 and in 32? Clivert.
Something
There's
like
a
that.
million difference. There's a million
Elanga,
difference.
like Ella said, Elanga. Something like that, right? So just something to think about. I think the Murphy
yeah,
thing has been just a set and forget. But if you're not really
Yeah.
going to use him either side of the 32 thing, seems a bit messy. Unless you're going to bench boost in 32, then you just stick him there. In 33
Yeah.
doesn't really matter.
Also, he
Yes.
comes cheaper than all the other bench options, right? Like every other midfielder is still 5.5, 5.7. He's safeguarding and you can forget him at 5 million. So that's also a
Exactly.
thing.
So somebody
I
like
do
a
want to mention-
Livramento and Murphy are very easy to bench in 33.
Exactly.
They're not eating up any of your budget at all.
Yeah. That's why you're preferring 32, right?
Right.
Yeah. One question also is if Gordon is out for a substantial amount of time, let's say we get that news from Eddie Howe, then I think we need to seriously look at Barnes also, because he becomes that he's in that goal scoring sort of role, and at 5.9 he could offer value for a short term, and he gets you closer to Rashford or Asensio if you want that switch in 33 as well. So I don't mind the price point, and I don't mind the upside of a Barnes if Gordon looks like he's confirmed out for a while.
I also have some data here for Trippier. 60 minutes per chance created by Trippier in his last 6 appearances. Much better than Livramento, and he's even been more efficient than Lewis Hall. Like you mentioned, Trippier is creating chances.
And Trippier, right? There's use case of how Eddie Howe's used him, and he's showing signs of that. So I will tell Pras, if you have the money, spend on Trippier. Like I like the upside of what a Trippier offers. One corner-headed goal and a clean sheet, and that's 13, 14 pointers that you've been used to in the past.
Yeah.
In terms, that's pretty much the data for Newcastle. If you guys are to pick,
like Pras, if I've just Pras and anybody else who's got team value, I think the difference between Trippier and a Livramento in terms of quality and output is greater than the difference between Eze and Sar. If you had to pick between the two to overspend.
I think this.
No, you're tempting me. I'll have a look. In fact, right now I'm distracted because I'm making drafts while Zoph is talking. This is how we are. Right?
It's actually the similar price difference.
5.4.
It's 1.1. It's exactly the price difference between a Sar and an Eze. So I totally agree with what LR is saying over there.
Yeah.
But man, if he gets injured, it's going to be very annoying, man.
It is annoying. And I just don't trust him to stay fit.
And the other thing is I want to spend a little less in defense because I feel like in Game Week 33, there will be a storm. Haaland will be fit, Saka will be fit, and everybody will have 3 free transfers to somehow get them. And if you spread them in your 4th and 5th defenders, then they don't exist in other places. So these are like just some things in the back of my mind. Like every time I'm making a draft, I then try to say, okay, now in this, how can I get to Haaland, Saka in two or three transfers?
Yeah. You know, while we were talking, right, I took 5 minutes to conjure up a draft, but like that's just taking a minute to talk about general strategy also. I think that's the benefit of our podcast in terms of we cover the wide spectrum of points to consider while building your draft. And so many of the decisions get made while talking about these points to consider that then eventually when you're building a draft, it shouldn't take more than 10-15 minutes because you've empowered yourself with so much information that makes the decisions anyway. So yeah. Just wanted to.
So again, your Newcastle picks, guys. I think Isak obviously a bit of a no-brainer. I think Livramento or Trippier. Would you consider potentially going double Newcastle defense? Maybe replace the Murphy with another Palace mid, something like that? I don't mind that. That's what Baker's been throwing at me.
So it's throwing that because the cartel loves it. And not that Baker uses it extensively, but basically the rotation works really well. Because the double Newcastle guys, you don't need to play, right? And the Arsenal guys and Munoz, you want to play every week, and Guardiola. So basically the guys only come up, the Newcastle guys only come up when they're relevant, which is when you bench boost in 32. So 32 or in 33, you sell one of them. So this is why you don't mind actually throwing in a couple of Newcastle guys because your midfield is stacked. You have good players. So you don't mind basically not using a spot for Murphy and using it for a double defense, which is also okay.
But also, same problem as I have with Palace defenders. United and Palace, I don't see clean sheets.
For Newcastle?
Yeah.
But home
That's my issue. Yeah, but I expect both United and Palace to score.
Home games with nothing else to play for apart from the league.
Yeah, but United and Palace by nature of, I'm overstating United's, but they're on the up. Those two teams are capable of scoring goals. It's not a banker like a Wolves or a Southampton that you'd want for a clean sheet potential. That's why
it feels more like 3-2 games rather than a 1-0 or 2-0 games.
And our team, United, is still giving away chances. So will I be surprised that Newcastle score 3? No. But will I be surprised if Newcastle concede 1? No. That's the point I'm trying to make. So I would rather have an attacker than a defender in that game because I think it's more likely that Newcastle score 2-3 and concede 1.
Let's do our drafts, guys. Before that, let's do our sleeper plug.
So we have a new month coming up, which is basically starting from the next game week. So if you haven't joined, is this our final month? We're in April. No, we have May also.
No.
Yes, 2 more months.
So we have 2 more months left. So if you want to join, it's not too late. Basically, if you join the Sleeper app where the QR code is on the top right, you can basically get access to this app where we do some content. We do weekly content. We talk for 60 seconds, basically what happened over the week. And in addition, you can play this game called Pick'em, And in that, you basically have to pick the winner every single week. And if you're right, we basically give the top 3 guys a Premier League jersey every single week. And that is essentially, so there is a Premier League jersey every single week to the top guy if you're in the public league. There's a Discord league, and I will tell you in a second how to join the Discord league. But if you join the Discord league, you will basically every month, 3 people will get a Premier League jersey. And if you want to join our Discord league, basically what you have to do is become a member on YouTube, which is the YouTube membership. And also you can basically go on patreon.com/the FPL Wire. If you join and become a Patreon, you can get access to the Discord. And you guys, which of you is out of the Champions League game we're playing? I think LR is out. No, Zoph is out.
I think I'm out.
Yeah, Zoph is out. So we play a Champions League format in which we've kicked off the competition. We also are playing a last man standing. In that, I think I am out last week. I think maybe I'm confusing with the other WhatsApp game we play. But essentially, there's lots of games, there's lots of advice. So if you want to join our Discord, you can. And if you do join our Discord, back to Sleeper, you will get access to this Discord league.
Let's do our drafts now. A lot of you will be tuning in just for this section. So Hassan, if you're doing the timestamp, start it right here. Do leave us a like and subscribe if you find it useful. So first up, I'll just walk you guys through now. Now, this is my first one I mentioned for now, bench boost 32 in mind. So I've got Rhea Gabriel from Arsenal, Guardiola, Munoz, Salah, Eze, Palmer, Murphy, Marmoush, Mateta, Isak, Verbruggen, Rashford, Livramento, and Neco Williams. Now, Rashford, I think I could potentially leave it there as Kluivert, change him later on, but I could potentially now this way I'm benching Rashford for the next 2, playing Murphy. I feel like I'm getting some sort of use from Murphy at least, right? If I'm going to keep him for a few weeks, play him for Brentford, play him for Leicester, keep Rashford primarily for the Southampton fixture and the fixture after. Then now, for example, this is how the bench boost would look. Verbruggen, Rashford, Gabriel, and Neco Williams would be the ones I'm bench boosting, who have Leicester, Southampton, Brentford, and Neco Williams, who has Everton. It's a decent bench boost if you ask me.
I like
very decent, very decent. But if Rashford starts against PSG, will you panic and transfer him out?
Potentially. That's why I said I could keep Kluivert here, right? Kluivert has Fulham home that week. But then I'd be tempted to play Kluivert over Murphy when he has Ipswich, which is not bad.
I mean, Kluivert is great at home to Ipswich.
Exactly,
no?
But that's again booking in another transfer for later, which is we'll talk about now. Now listen.
No, but why? You don't have to take a Kluivert out.
In 33.
Kluivert could double.
I could, but in 33, like let's say, yeah, I would be benching Kluivert in 33 then. Right.
No, you'll be benching.
This is how the same team, for example, would look in 33. Let's say I do Isak, Palmer to Watkins, Saka over here. So the team would be Rhea, Gabriel, Guardiola, Munoz, who all have doubles. Salah, the only single.
Wait, how did you get Saka? You sold Palmer for Saka?
Sold Palmer, and I sold Isak for Watkins. Both are self-funded moves, so you don't even need any money over there.
Those are good, actually, solid. If Haaland is out, those will be very popular.
Those will be very popular. And I have one more spare transfer in this case, so it could potentially do Kluivert to Rashford, but I like keeping that insurance for that. I don't want to book all 3 transfers, because something will go wrong.
Yeah.
So in which case, that I'll be benching Verbruggen, Jacob Murphy, Livramento, and Neco Williams, who all have a bit rubbish fixtures. Now Verbruggen, I realize Kepa is actually a bit better. Kepa has Fulham at home in 32 and a potential double. You could play him instead of Verbruggen. Similar sort of structure. So there's very minimal money you see left on the bench over here. In that sense. And I don't have to worry about shipping these Newcastle guys. Otherwise, now my transfer, let's say I have some other guys over here. I have to move Palmer on to Saka, etc. I have to move Isak into Watkins potentially and deal with the Newcastle guys. Seems a bit messy in that sense. That's why I like the bench boost strategy over here. I've also made one now, for example, now this is how the similar team would look in 36. Not really relevant now, I think. But it wouldn't be very well optimized for 36. That's the point I was making over here. We don't know the doubles yet, so let's not spend too much on that. This is another one I had made, Pras, just for discussion. Now, this is bench boost 33 in mind. I've gone with that goalkeeper combination of Henderson, Martinez, and I've put in Saliba now. You mentioned instead of Munoz. I still haven't locked myself out of Arsenal. I still can do those Palmer and this one, Watkins moves. I don't know what to do with the Hoyson spot.
Yeah, but is it the same price if you did Saliba to Raya and Saliba to Munoz and Henderson to Raya?
1 million.
That's better, no? As a combo?
It's pretty much the same.
But as a combo, it's better. Munoz will get more points than
but then ultimately
Henderson
you're not getting a double game week keeper than in 32. but it essentially works out the same. What I'm trying to do with Henderson, Martinez, I'm guaranteeing myself a double game week keeper in 36 as well, right? You do that with...
Yeah, but it's still the same
It's
number
actually
of
the same
players.
number
You
of
still have
players.
Munoz. Yeah, you still have Munoz in 36 then instead. So, I mean, I've just something like it was something on my mind when I started doing this Henderson versus Martinez. Then I just said, you know what, Raya and Munoz is better than Henderson and Saliba. Like if you wanted to go for that combination, and people who didn't get it, basically, you did mention this in the past, because Crystal Palace play Aston Villa in the FA Cup semi-final. One of them will reach the final. Whoever reaches the final should have a double game week in 36. So because he has Henderson and Martinez, whoever reaches the final gets that double in 36, and whoever doesn't reach the final has the game in 37. That's basically the nice thing about Henderson plus Martinez.
So I've also circling you back. One of the reasons you want to wildcard is to get Munoz.
Yeah,
enough Munoz for
I'm still on the other one. I just made this
season. I know, but I just want to, I want to hammer this point in right now. He's your boy.
Exactly. So I'm actually going with him either way. I just made this just for discussion. The differences aren't that much in terms of a 32, 33 like bench boost as such. But over here, the Newcastle guys again had a problem in 33. What are you going to do with your Murphy and your Livramento? Are you going to bench boost them against Villa or sell them? In which case, I think I would probably want to go start with Saka in this case, so I don't have to worry about committing that transfer in the future. Or I would accept that I'm going to bench Isak or play Isak against Villa, things like that.
See, you don't mind your Newcastle attackers against that Villa defense at all. I want to say that. Like the problem might be defenders, but do you mind Isak Murphy against that Aston Villa defense? That's
I don't have faith in Murphy as much.
But like yeah, it's not a bad thing for the attackers. You know, because Villa are not like clean sheet monsters. They concede chances to everybody. So they just wanted to adjust your perception there.
Yep.
Also, if you're going for a Haaland, better to just go for Wan-Bissaka.
Wan-Bissaka, yeah, that's probably who I need to go for in that.
Dorgu.
Dude, Wan-Bissaka could have a double in 36 as well. Normally, I'm okay with hyping up Man United picks, but
so could Højlund.
But Dorgu is getting 13 points against Wolves at home.
This is one...
or a red card.
This is something I just want to share with you guys. It's a bit crazy. So something I reverse engineered, right? I thought about what would be my ideal team for 33 and how I can work backwards from this. Now, let's say now I put Areola in there primarily due to lack of funds away. We probably have Kepa that is a bit better. This again with bench boost 32 in mind. Now you would have these guys, Rea, Areola, let's say Kepa, Gabriel, Konsa, Munoz, Burn and Guardiola, similar defense. Now Saka, Murphy, Foden, Salah and Sarr, with Mateta, Watkins, and Marmoush. If you ask me to pick an ideal ideal 7 for that double, this would probably be it, assuming that Haaland isn't fit and is quite achievable. Let's say I start with somebody like a Palmer, Kluivert, and an Isak in that spot. With those 3 transfers, I can get to Saka, Foden, and Watkins. What do you guys think?
Just not
Foden not a pick.
Set on Foden, man. Like
not now.
The moment Haaland comes back.
32, 33. If we have clarity by that time. And again, I'm leaving Palmer in there.
It's not been a pick all season. One plan for it.
So you could have Palmer instead of Foden in this team.
Yeah.
But you have 0.0 in the bank.
I mean, I'll be selling Palmer. Let's say I'll be starting with Palmer, Kluivert, and Isak. And they can become Foden, Saka, and Watkins.
Yeah, that's fine.
Something like that is good work as well. It's something I had in mind. Foden, I'm waiting.
I'm fully prepared to use 3 transfers in Gameweek 33. It's going to be a huge upside week, and that could include getting Haaland, getting Saka. If Haaland is out, getting Foden. You know, like all these big upside picks, because Palmer can go, right? Like if you look at Palmer's fixtures after 33, like they're rubbish. Away to Fulham, I don't want him. For the nice game in 34, I'll be free hitting him in. After 34, I don't want him. They're rubbish games. So basically, Palmer is a definite sell in 33.
Yeah. And in 33. And also Palmer has a better 30, 31, 32 than Saka. So it just works beautifully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now if
we'll have 3 free transfers, right? In 33?
If you wildcard this week and don't use one up.
That's lovely. That's enough. 4 transfers, 1 hit can manage.
That's why I'm wary on people like Trippier or somebody who gets injured. It's going to screw up your triple move, that triple high upside move in 33.
What's one? Like, we are treating like, do you remember the previous seasons where we take...
I know. -4 is a -2.
A -4 every 1 week or 2 week. Like, why are we like looking at it like it's like hot iron? Oh, we can't take a little bit of a hit. It's all right. Like I'm just pointing out that because Trippier might get injured, but the other side is Trippier might get a 13-pointer also. Like, you talk about thinking about the most worst thing that can happen, but also think about what the potential optimistic ceiling also is while weighing it up.
This is why it's great potting with you. I always miss the other side.
So let's just dial it back, guys, in terms of the locks. And I think, plus, these are very similar to yours as well. I think you have Rhea. I think in terms of the goalkeeper option would be a lock. I think you've gone with Martinez as your second goalkeeper.
I'm just looking at Martinez as basically a nice option, which is not so. Ideally, you go for a City keeper, but I don't want to go Raya and Edison because of general issues with Edison.
Exactly.
But
That's the main thing. Edison, randomly, you'll get dropped and see that Ortega would start.
If you're going for Raya, then you want to try to get a keeper that has the highest odds of a double game week in game week 36, and that is Martinez. And so, therefore, that's the 1 week where I want to play Martinez over Raya. And so, that ideally is what I want to do. If it doesn't happen, doesn't happen. And both of them will double in game week 33. So, Raya and Martinez will be quite a popular combination. It's expensive, but it's popular. Other variants could be you go for Henderson or you go for Pope or somebody else. But I like Raya and Martinez.
Or Kepa. Kepa does, if you're going to do bench boost 32, Kepa works for 32 Fulham at home, likely double.
Yeah. Or Areola if you're looking bench boost 33.
33. And save money because obviously 4.2 is very cheap over there. Now,
Exactly.
Gabriel Guardiol, I think are pretty much locks over there. With Munoz, you could potentially go with a Saliba, but then in which case I would say leave room for Saka. Go without Rhea then. Go with somebody else over there. Salah, as we discussed, I really don't think there's any reason to sell him. Keep him for that Leicester fixture in 33. Eze versus Sarr is a debate. Palmer now, let's say tomorrow, we get some news that Saka is starting, keeping in mind that Arsenal are the first kickoff tomorrow. Would you guys be tempted to go there?
If Palmer is fit, I'll still go Palmer.
We won't
even
get a
if
press
Saka is
conference.
starting.
It's all going to be
but you'll know if he's
in the training videos.
Stuff.
He's already in the training videos. I've seen it.
Ipswich at home in 32 is also too good, man. Like, and Saka is playing Real Madrid between 30 and 33. Like, I'm happy to take on Saka with Palmer. Like, I feel Palmer has bigger upside.
Fair shot.
Generally agree with that. And then you have
Spurs at home, Ipswich at home. Bloody good
Fair
games.
shot. He's a captaincy option this week. Underrated captaincy option.
If he's fit, this is the issue. This is the slight issue.
Yeah, the issue, but also I think you guys are overrating Chelsea a little bit, just how poorly we've been playing.
Even with Jackson is fit now.
I know, but it's not like Jackson is bloody Pele. So he's not going to.
I mean, that's what you guys were saying.
Jackson isn't, but Palmer is.
Palmer is Pele when Jackson starts.
Yeah, but either way, so we could end up losing that fixture the next 2 games, I think, against Tottenham.
Madueke is also back. So, like, the boys are back.
So, again, Murphy, Ricky said, locks on the front line picks itself. Now, Rashford versus Kluivert is something I am debating, right? Now, let's say if I go with Rashford, I don't want to play him against Brighton this week. I don't want to play him the next week either. I'll be playing Murphy over him. Kluivert, the fixtures are really nice. I think the upside could potentially be there.
I'm not feeling Rashford that much.
And like the benefit of not committing to a Villa midfielder right now is just getting the right one in 33. Like, I don't mind that.
So stick Kluivert in there instead of Rashford and play Kluivert over Murphy.
Yeah.
That appeals a lot more to me. But yeah, that's about it. Let me talk through your draft, Pras.
So there's a question in the chat on why no love for Gordon. I mean, firstly, he's suspended this week and he's just that much more expensive. Like, if he was 6 million, I think a lot of people would have Gordon, even benching him this week and still having him. It's just that 7.2 gets stretching it a little, right?
And we don't know if he's fit.
That's the main thing. If Eddie Howe said that he's absolutely back in training and he's fit, then something to consider. You could even stick him on the bench this week.
Yep.
Don't mind that.
All right. So this is my... No, this is not mine. This is LR's.
Yeah,
LR's. Big at the back. Yeah.
I'll just quickly run through it because I already made changes while talking to you guys. So already, after talking to you guys, Raya is in. Like, you need to go for the nailed Arsenal guys as well. So Areola's out, Raya's in, and Saliba's out. And I've gone for Dogu there as a placeholder. Dogu will probably be a Forest defender or a Bournemouth defender or a Van Bissaka based on when I want to anchor my bench boost to. So that defender will be a bench boosting defender in either 32 or 33. And I'll keep that in mind when picking that position. Outside of that, I've got Trippier, Munoz, Guardiol, and Gabriel, Murphy, Sarr, Palmer, Asensio, Salah, Isak, Mateta, Marmoush. pretty template. I
It's
think
pretty same.
in
The
general,
eighth is the same. What you have is essentially I've got Rashford over Asensio.
yeah.
Otherwise, it's the same as Sar,
I think
etc.
where all of us are going to differ is the midfielders we pick outside of Salah, Palmer, and Palace midfielder, whether we go for Saka now or not, and who our fourth defenders is or fifth
Yeah.
defender is essentially going to be. Outside of that, a lot of the wildcard picks itself.
Agreed. Which is unfortunate, actually. Haaland injury has screwed it up a little. Because, one
Yeah.
differentiation I was seeing was, would people keep Salah or not? Like, one thing I was thinking,
Exactly.
Gameweek 31 wildcard, I was going to go Haaland without Salah. Or I think I would have. I don't want to claim that I would have. But, yeah. Anyway, let me talk about my draft. No, this is not mine.
No, I just cycled back. Here it is.
So, Raya Martinez. Now, I have got double Villa defense. I understand that Villa have been rubbish, conceded a lot. But basically, the idea of this draft is to have 3 Arsenal, to have 3 Liverpool, 3 Newcastle, 3 Palace, 2 Aston Villa, Palmer, and Salah. That's basically the genesis of this draft. No other single game weeker. Everybody basically has either a good fixture in 32 or doubles in 33. That's the idea. So what I would say is I would basically anchor this team towards bench boost 32 because Konsa plays Southampton, Martinez plays Southampton. That's nice. Everybody else is good, has a double or is a good team. But if something happens, right? Something happens and I feel like, okay, there's more upside in 33 and I'm still able to save my transfers, I just keep it because again, Aston Villa have a double, Arsenal have a double, Newcastle, now I'll have to use my transfers for Newcastle. So in a scenario where Saka is not there or Haaland is definitely not fit, I can easily do Murphy, Palmer and Isak to basically Saka, Watkins and Rodgers. Or okay, I can't do Rodgers, but I'll get somebody else. So with 3 free transfers, I don't mind taking out 2 Newcastle to make this team good for the longer term. And so that's the thinking. Like I don't have to anchor myself to any bench boost if I go double Villa. And I'm currently preferring a Villa defender just for security and safety. Like I definitely, if you told me Rashford is starting game week 33, I would go there. If you told me Asensio starting, but in these 5 midfielders, I don't see anyone who's wrong. Now the flaw in this is I have triple Arsenal defense, so I'm locking myself out of Saka, which basically I recognize. So one thing I could think about doing is basically instead of Saliba going Munoz to make my team look even more like what you guys have just shown, and instead of basically Sar or Eze, I could get somebody else. So and that somebody else could be a Clivert. It could be I could even afford Rashford if I went for an Eze. So this is where it is. Like in one side of my brain, I'm thinking, oh, this is such a boring draft because everybody has the same strike force. Pretty much 5 out of 7 defenders are the same. Pretty much 3 midfielders are the same. But the other side of my brain is saying, I could be bench boosting in 32. So I could be clever here. I could be bench boosting in 33. Could I be free hitting in one of those weeks? So there is a little bit of this could change massively or it could not change. That's where I am at the moment, unfortunately.
What are we looking for in terms of press conferences tomorrow, guys? What do we
Haaland
want to
news.
hear? What do we not to hear? Haaland news, we want to hear that Haaland is out for a longer period, which I don't think we'll get considering the time we've had now. It's going to be he's going for a scan, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but he could say, it was not too bad. He may miss this game, or he could just say, look, I don't have no idea. Of course, that is not helpful. But he could just say that it's not too bad. It's looking all right. He probably missed this game, or we will see he's in training. Or he says, you know what, he's out for a couple of weeks. Even that information is information. Because I don't know if, like all our drafts have only 2 City right now. We're not committing to a third City, even though City have doubles and doubles because we want to keep our powder dry.
The Foden pick, just something in this drawing itself to me because it's Leicester at home. I feel there's something over there with Foden. If I hear that Haaland is out for an extended period, I might commit to the Foden pick over Palmer.
But again, Leicester at home versus Spurs at home.
Yeah, Leicester at home is objectively worse.
But Palmer is objectively better than as a FPL pick, not as a footballer.
I get your point, but then ultimately, I'm looking at 30. The next week he plays Manchester United, who are worse than Brentford.
No, that's not true. I'm not taking that. Brentford,
Palace, etc. Something like that. I think you can potentially look at Foden as well. I think just when Haaland is out.
The pick in City though has been Savio. Zoph. It's not been Foden. Like if you just go to the scout pages and look at the underlying numbers, Foden has not been around. He's not sniffing.
Nothing. But again, with Haaland out, it's different, right? Because the way Marmoush moves and the way Haaland moves is totally different.
Exactly. So it could be a chance where we get to see a game where Foden becomes the guy who stands next to Marmoush because they need 2 central guys. What used to happen when Haaland was there was Marmoush was that guy, which took Foden out of play as a pick. So we don't have that information.
And that's why I showed you the earlier version, which had Saka, Foden, and Watkins. That if I can, that's why I've been trying to make sure I'm not locked out of it. That's why I'm wary of spending. Let's say if I go with a Martinez, my second goalkeeper, I definitely can't afford that draft. Get my point?
Yeah. But it's all right. Like I feel like you'll find somebody cheaper and better. It's fine. Like I wouldn't hang my hopes onto that pick.
There's also
And I'm a
goalkeeper,
Foden
for
fanboy.
example, like for that draft I showed you had Areola. I'll be bench boosting Areola away to Liverpool in 32. It's fine. It's like if I got Kepa gets what 3 or 4 points more, might even concede.
Areola is a great bench boost option in 33, by the way. Just saying. What if you want to go
in that sense?
Yeah.
Guys, we have a bunch of super
we have to,
chats
guys,
as well.
also primarily before that, we have to discuss captaincy. If I don't forget, I made a note of this. We have to discuss captaincy this week. Salah, or do we go away from that?
Just a couple of points that I want to note, which is just pertinent again, because again, after going through this entire conversation, the 30 versus 31 wildcard debate, I think we've come to realize that there's actually a fair amount of information that
if
you
your
can
team
gain.
can manage it, I think potentially give it another week.
Yeah, just want to summarize quickly. Liverpool picks in terms of whether Bradley becomes a good cheap enabler. City's second midfielder pick, like we don't know who the midfielder to pick is. Maybe you learn from a game. What else? Arsenal, do we learn anything? Yes, Saka. What he looks like, etc.
Saka looks on fire. You're going to have mad FOMO.
Little bit more update on Haaland, like maybe he's out for
more information on Haaland and who the right City picks are and whether Eze is found form or not. Not City, who the right Newcastle City picks are and Newcastle United picks are and whether Eze is found form or not. Like these are the bits of information that you'll get.
And fixture drops. Fixture announcements.
Oh yes, confirmation of fixture drops. Yes. Yeah.
Would it be possible that we don't get that by 31? Unlikely, right?
Unlikely. You know what makes me think it's unlikely and actually makes me think I won't be surprised if we see something today or tomorrow is the fact that 5 days ago on the West Ham website there was information. They've clearly had their plans in place. They probably have their plans in place for the other games too. It's just about when they announce.
I mean, Gameweek 33 is 19 days away.
They will announce.
Has to be soon.
Just after deadline tomorrow.
We standard. Right, let's talk captaincy, guys. We've gone almost 2 hours. Salah, obviously, the default, but the data for Everton has been really good. I wanted to show that.
Haaland was a good pick, man.
Yep.
Those Haaland-less
XGC
bastards, as you say, lucked out.
I saw Ronald in the chat. He's one of those bastards. Because FPL pig, yeah.
Name and shape. Ronald, Dan, Baker, amongst our friends.
Oh yeah, actually those two also did it. Yeah. Actually Baker I told not to get. So yes, I remember Baker. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So they're in the chat with us. It was great. While we're talking and they were talking about the thing, and both Baker and Dan were shitting and worried about 30 with Haaland, not having Haaland. Yeah. So they heard about the news, and then 5 minutes later, Baker messages on the group, Dan, is the cock in your hand yet? Yeah.
Everton, last 6 matches, 4th for XGC.
Yeah, man.
Who else, man? Palmer is a rival.
Palmer is a rival. But again, Palmer, you're going in blind, man. Effectively, I don't think he'll be on the bench, though. I think he'll either start or not make the squad. Could be on the bench, so it's not impossible.
LR is captaining Marmoush. I can already see it in his veins.
But he just said that Marmoush is worse without Haaland.
Yeah, but Leicester is terrible. I'll take it on.
Yeah, who else? I think Isak is a realistic option.
Isak or no, Marmoush or Palmer. I believe in Palmer as well. If he's seeing in the videos, it's Palmer or Marmoush. I'm taking Salah on. Good.
Plus, where are you leaning?
Salah, man. There's no need. Salah is fine. Like I was being brave in my own sort of bubble by going against Salah, and I was ready to. But now that he's for me the best pick, if Palmer was a confirmed fit, I would think about it. But even then, I think Salah is fine. He's
Mubarak brace.
Yeah, I mean, he's over. The fasting is over. Not that it matters anyway. But they will want revenge, man. You remember? We all remember that Everton game. How Everton behaved after they equalized. I think Liverpool will be well up for it.
Not debating it.
Derby under lights.
Yeah.
I really want to go Marmoush at 750k, but I'm currently on Salah.
Will he be on pens, you guys think?
Yeah. I think so. He took them for his previous club, and I think he will be on Pens, Mamush.
He has like 8 scored out of 9, something like that. If he's on pens as well, he's great. Great.
Also, just generally in the last 2 or 3 games, I've captained a few differentials against Leicester. It's been fun. Just a great watch also. You get chances. So like even if your team doesn't take them, like you'll have chances. You'll have fun watching the game because your player will have chances.
Points
I
are
don't know
fun,
what
though.
that is. LR's fun. Yeah, exactly.
Points
That's
are
not
fun.
fun for hearts.
No, but
you know?
it's come through also. Just saying.
I mean,
Yeah, of course. That's how you play,
Yeah.
man.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I have 8 to 9 weeks. I might just chase the ultimate dopamine now. Salah scoring just isn't it, man. It's like Salah scores, like, oh, Salah score. Just will give the same kick. So might go Mamouche, might go Salah. With Newcastle, Brentford is interesting. Newcastle have been on the piss all week. Something you have to keep in mind. And Brentford have tightened up a lot in that away games
I don't know whether to
recently.
believe that person or not, but somebody in the chat said that they were at the parade and Newcastle players were giving strict instructions not to drink. I don't know whether I should believe that or not.
I mean, they're probably
No
obviously
chance.
drinking behind the scenes, if not
No
during the
chance.
parade.
You see Grealish on the bus parades, like no chance.
No chance.
Yeah.
Salah, I guess, is the de facto missionary one if you not to have your Mamouche, Isaacs, etc.
So basically, Egypt is getting captain this weekend, this
Egypt.
midweek.
We are all pro Egypt.
We should
Or
mention.
right.
let's say
Let's do a super chat, and we should mention Eid Mubarak to all our listeners who are celebrating.
Eid
today.
Mubarak, everybody.
Eid Mubarak.
All
All
right,
right.
let's do the soup.
Start from the top. So,
Wow.
firstly, Tarun joined as a marquee signing. So, welcome, Tarun. The heroic doses says, would you guys navigate assistant? Well, we talked about
We
how we
covered
would
it already.
navigate assistant manager. So go back to the assistant manager section. Shaunak says, I was one of those these, you can say bastard, it's okay. That had Bruno cap and no Haaland. But that aside, we're not helping anyone who captained Bruno last week. But okay, now that you've put the super chat. Visa and Trent to Isak and Milankovic or Guardiola to Mamouche. Guardiola plus Mamouche. I would go Guardiola plus Mamouche.
Guardiola Mamouche.
Second super chat, same.
Yes, he listed his whole team.
But listen, but he should be able to get Isak in 32. Like
He's probably
was-
is asking for wildcard, I think.
No, he's
because if
asking
that
for his
move
free
doesn't-
transfers, I think.
yeah, and
No,
if you
he
can't
should
get
not
Isak
play
in
any
32, then Isak.
Yeah. If you're going to wildcard in 31, then obviously you go Guardiola and Mamouche for this week upside. If you're looking at a longer horizon, then obviously Isak Milankovic, I think.
Okay, the next one is Tariq. He's saying, great to have you back. What do you think of free hit 33? Highest potential. 34 can be navigated like 29. Great question. I don't think we covered free hit 33. I think free hit 33 is a possibility. But what happens with free hit 33 is basically what you do is you hope Haaland gets fit. Right. And then you don't have to break, like we're saying, we're going to do 3 transfers. We're going to bring Haaland into our team and then we'll do all of this. Free hit 33 basically avoids that. You get Haaland for the week you want him, captain him. Everybody else can't get to him. And your Newcastle guys, remember we talked about Newcastle have a double in 32, then they play Ipswich at home in 34. So if you can actually make your team in such a way, free hit 33 could work. The problem with free hit 33 is basically the teams that you want in 33 are also the teams you want for the potential double in 36. So this is why free hit 33 in my mind becomes slightly weaker. But if Haaland becomes fit just before 33 and you were on a free hit 33 strategy, that could work out really well.
With somebody.
Sorry, I asked the question and answered the question. So I'll ask you guys the next one. Paul Spencer 007 says, play Kepa or Henderson, got Munoz, but no Bournemouth defense.
I think Southampton on their own patch can score. I'd play Kepa.
Yeah, fair.
Last one from Paul again. Wissa to Mateta for a hit. No, I don't even think Mateta will play him necessarily more than 60, 70 minutes. And he didn't look as sharp as I'd like.
If you're getting him for the double without using a chip, take the hit. Good entry point.
Yeah, good point.
That makes
point.
sense.
I was with Walsh on FML and we were talking about Mateta. If he's lost balance in 1 year, he basically veers towards one side when he's playing. I mean, it's possible. So yeah, we have to monitor. Don't take a hit.
Cool. Let's wrap up, guys. It's, I think, one of our longest pods. We just clocked 2 hours.
It's
Excellent.
great. Like, what also happened while podding with you guys is like, my homework is done.
My homework is
Like-
done. I was going to say the same thing.
Like now
Pretty
it's just like half an hour of tinkering, figuring out what to do. Actually, that also after the press conference news tomorrow. No need to react. Are we doing team selection videos or anything, guys? Like 5-minute videos with a final
Let's
wildcard
just do
drafts?
our
Or...
drafts. Yeah, let's just do short ones. I don't think we need to present much information. We'll just do our drafts.
Okay,
As
cool.
a short,
Like,
yeah, because that'll be
yeah.
easier. I don't have OBS or not easy to get OBS.
Or just like 5-minute drafts. If anything, Zoph, maybe around this time tomorrow, we can come on for 20 minutes with process draft. Process doesn't need to come
Yeah.
on and just like do our drafts maybe at some point.
Sure, we'll do that.
But what we are promising is we'll do our drafts tomorrow.
You'll see
at
our
some
drafts,
point.
updated drafts.
Yeah. Either the shorts or the videos. So look out for both and hit the subscribe button so you get notifications for those.
Fantastic, guys. Any last words?
Mumbai Indians got Kolkata out for 113. This new guy, Ashwini Kumar,
What excellent
4
last words.
wickets.
It has to mention because Mumbai might finally actually win a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mumbai's rubbish this year, man. So bad.
No. Bumrah will be back next game. We're fine.
Anyway, at least you didn't miss much while podding. Fantastic, guys. It was
Yeah.
great talking to you again. It's amazing.
Cheers,
We had
cheers.
such a long break. I think this is potentially the longest break you could have had with the international break and FA Cup thrown in.
Yeah.
Is
We
this the
fell into
longest
the
pod
season.
we've had?
Close to it, I'd say.
I think we're at 2.5 or 2.8 for the longest pod we've had ever.
Yeah, it's getting close for sure. And we only have 24 hours for people to consume them. So Hassan will be there with the timestamps on these very soon. I'll get the audio out right away tonight.
All right. Cheers.
All right.
Guys.
Thank
Take
you,
care. Good
everybody.
luck.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.